I did tell you to be careful, Aqua-chan. Luckily, it seems that Kazuma-kun has come back to his senses. If you don't mind, I'm going to have a talk with him real quick. I'm sure he needs a familiar face to get him through what just happened. Izuku said quickly before dragging Kazuma to his room. Katsuma-kun, you're going to tell me exactly what happened. Don't even try to lie to me. I'll decide what to do after you finish. If you do lie to me, I will tell the girls what I think happened, and you'll have to deal with the consequences on your own. With his ultimatum given, Kazuma started to sweat profusely. This was not going to end well for him. You guys have these too. After the fiasco with the succubus, Izuku cornered Kazuma and forced him to explain what had just happened. Thankfully, he was forthcoming with his information. Apparently, it was just a huge misunderstanding combined with a ridiculous amount of bad luck. So let me get this straight. Izuku started while staring down at Kazuma, who was in full Dejiza mode. A group of succubi lives in Axel, and they have a symbiotic relationship with the men here. They provide lewd dreams in exchange for life energy from the buyer, and you ordered one earlier today. Am I missing anything? He asked with a deadpan. No, Izuku and I-sama. I apologize for causing you any trouble. Kazuma sounded genuine. Izuku sighed and patted him on the shoulder. Look, you technically did nothing wrong. That business that they have is legal and beneficial compared to having them suck out souls with no regulation whatsoever. Which was true. It was better to have the men and succubi deal with their issues in a controlled environment rather than risk having them do the same thing with reckless abandon. I'm just surprised, honestly. I thought you were supposed to have a luck stat almost as high as my own. How did something like this even happen? And Kazuma didn't even have the excuse of dating a goddess of luck. Kazuma openly groaned at that. I blame that useless goddess. Her minimal luck stat must be corrupting mine. Izuku slapped him over the head and reprimanded him for insulting Aqua. He did have a point, though. Those two acted like an old married couple half the time, so it made sense that their stats might affect each other directly. Plus, Izuku was sure Eris luck had something to do with it. She laughed for hours after she found out what happened. Guess being the goddess of fortune had its perks. You're never left without entertainment. Regardless of your intentions. What you did with Aqua and Darkness was wrong. I'm willing to keep this whole thing secret since you were just unlucky, but you still need to make it up to them. Somehow, treat them to lunch or something. I don't expect you to up and tell them the truth, but giving them something nice shouldn't be beyond you, right? He agreed to it easily enough. He did mess up and was genuinely sorry for what he did. I guess Darkness didn't mind it all that much. Makes sense, she is Darkness after all. And for whatever reason, Aqua wasn't as mad as I thought she'd be either. Hopefully, this will all blow over by morning. Izuku thought to himself as I finally went to bed and let sleep take me. Hopefully, tomorrow wouldn't be as chaotic. The following day, the mansion's gravesite. I really am sorry for not noticing the sign you put up, Izuku-kun. Aqua-chan was distracting me before we went in. Darkness apologized to him for what happened last night. Odakeshi did have a point, though. Izuku guessed they were all at fault in one way or another. He certainly could have stopped it from getting as bad as it did if he hadn't tripped over himself so much, both literally and figuratively. It's okay, Darkness-chan. Mistakes were made on all accounts back then. It was honestly just a huge case of bad luck. I should have noticed that Kazuma-kun was acting strangely and put a stop to it. Izuku responded before taking a glance at what she was wearing. Why are you in that secretary's outfit, Darkness-chan? It even looked like modern-day clothing. Did a former reincarnate introduce it to the public? That's smart, actually. More avenues to generate income, one guess. She looked surprised by this and blushed heavily. As secretary, this is a high-grade noble's outfit. Only the most well-off can even dream of having one. Oh, so the creator went in that direction. Hate to break it to you, Darkness-chan, but outfits like that are pretty common among businesswomen in my world. She deflates at that. She, along with the other nobles, really thought that it was some special uniform for the upper class. And the one she's wearing is pretty mediocre in quality, too. I probably shouldn't tell her that. Modern-day clothes would be difficult for anyone from this world to replicate. Izuku was about to offer to make her address himself before the town. Alarm blared again. This is an emergency. Destroyer alert. Destroyer alert. Please evacuate the town at once. All able-bodied adventurers, please report to the guild hall. This must be serious. The only other time this happened, a demon general was involved. Hey, Darkness-chan, what exactly is a destroyer? Izuku asked her as she comes out of her shock state. No time to explain, Izuku-kun. We have to get our gear ready and head to the guild hall right away, she said before speeding toward her room. Izuku decided he should do the same if the panic in. Darkness' voice was anything to go by. He headed towards a shed and put on all of his gear, including his new additions. This should come in handy. I was the first to arrive at the guild hall, having gone at about 20% and high into the air to make sure that he didn't damage the surroundings. Yup, he was pulling an all might and leaping across the city in huge bursts of speed. Thank you, Melissa. I'll never forget you for making something that could let me experience this. When he arrived, Luna was in full panic mode until she saw him. Itsuku-kun, please tell me you can stop the destroyer. You have to, she pleaded while grabbing onto his legs, tears almost breaking out at the thought of the destroyer. Well, destroying her home. Luna-chan, calm down. Now, please, tell me exactly what a destroyer is. I'll try my best from there. Regardless of what it is, I promise to keep the townspeople safe. That seemed to calm her down. She took several deep breaths and then explained what the mobile fortress destroyer was. Oh, so it's just a super weapon. Izuku summarized nonchalantly. The others were surprised by how calm the green mage was, so he explained. Back where I'm from, we get these things on a monthly basis. Every bozo with an intelligence enhancement quirk or a quirkless villain who got lucky with funding makes at least one of these, he tells them, waving his hand in dismissal. The trick with super weapons is that they are very rarely as intelligent as the creator. From what they told me, this thing was a gigantic metal spider that had enough strength to crush large buildings, had a magic barrier around it, and had several point defense laser weapons on the top and bottom of the machine. A fairly simple setup. Whoever made it was probably going for style points more than anything. Do you know what direction it's coming from? Izuku asked them as they point towards the northeast. Right? You probably should have been more specific. It'll be here in about an hour and a half. It runs faster than any horse, so it is difficult to scout. Luna informs him. Izuku nods and tells them about his plan. This was honestly so by the numbers to him that he barely even needed to think about it. Okay, please set up the defenses in these key points, Izuku said while pointing to a map of the town. Aqua-chan should be at the center wall, preparing a break spell that should be enough to get through its barrier. On the two adjacent towers, there should be Megumin-chan, Yin-Yin-chan, and Wiz-san. They will provide the firepower needed to take it down after the barrier is broken. He gave them a rough outline. They seemed to realize just how well prepared the city really was with us around. Wow, Izuku-sama, with your team around, nothing short of an army could really harm the city, huh? A red-haired waitress commented after seeing the plan. Izuku rubbed the back of his head at that. My friends are pretty amazing, huh? Anyway, this plan is assuming that it even reaches us. The guild looked at Izuku in confusion. I'll scout ahead and intercept it on its way. If I can, I'll take it down before it can even get close to the city. But if I fail, I'll head back and provide support for the plan. He tells them it was time to finally stress test his new equipment. Odd gazes follow, and they keep it up for much longer than Izuku was comfortable with. He waved them an awkward goodbye and headed off towards the northeast gate. He had work to do. After he reached the outside of the walls, he sped up to 40% of his power. He could probably go higher, but it would start to hurt by then and really drain his stamina. Besides, with this level of speed, he already reached the metal monstrosity in under 10 minutes. Whoever made this thing was trying too hard to be edgy. I mean, a giant spider, really. Izuku saw it preparing to shoot a laser from the plateau he was standing on. It tried to disintegrate a bird for some reason. Berdino, he yelled, lunging at the bird in an attempt to save it. He managed to catch it before the laser hit, but had to block it with his gauntlet. The laser was strong enough to push him back quite a bit, and it even heated up his gauntlet significantly, but in the end, he was able to deflect it right back, only to have it be blocked completely by the destroyer's magic barrier. Izuku let the bird go, and it decided to sit on the ground and rest a bit. It must be tired after all of that. Izuku looked back towards the robot as it continued its path without bothering to attack them again. It must only attack things that are close to it. He muttered before looking at the third leg on its right side and prepare himself. Let's see just how durable you are, big guy. Izuku muttered before jumping towards the leg. He prepared a 100% smash and let it fly. Detroit smash. The metal screeched and bent at an odd angle to the point where it probably couldn't use that leg anymore. The robot seemed to acknowledge this because it stopped walking and immediately detached said leg before producing a new one in quick succession. So much for that idea. Now for the magic barrier. I haven't gotten any time to test this out, but I hope it works. Izuku said while pointing his open palm towards the thing and yelling out magic canceller. He pushed out all of his mana into his only spell, a bright light emanating from his hands which stopped the robot's movements for several seconds. Sadly, it kept going shortly after. So it is powered by magic. Whatever is doing this must be extremely powerful and long-lived, like a small nuclear reactor that provides constant power over the centuries. With his experiment over with, he decided to head back to the town. His expedition wasn't a total failure. On his way back, Izuku noticed that everyone was already at the gate and in position. Wiz and Megumin were manning the towers while Aqua was in the middle. Kikakadori. I need to stop hanging out with Kazuma-kun so much. They were also cheering at him for some reason. The closer Izuku got, the louder it got, so he decided to protect his sanity and headed directly for where Kazuma was. Explain. Izuku said. Kazuma answered immediately, already used to this song and dance. You know that bird that you saved? It was a familiar that the guild used to watch the destroyer on its way here. Oh no, not again, please. They saw your little power play back there, and it gave them some confidence, along with how Luna told them that you came up with a plan to beat that thing before they could even arrive at the hall. He said while smirking. At least Izuku gave the others a morale boost, and he didn't even make another girl fall for him this time. By the by, the girl that owned that bird familiar wanted to thank you for saving it, personally. Izuku gave up. He headed towards Wiz and handed her some mana potions just in case things went wrong, and then did the same for Megumin before noticing how badly she was shaking. He placed a hand on her shoulder, and she whipped her head back in response. Megumin-chan, it's okay. The plan will work. I already confirmed that this thing can be beaten with a hard enough hit. And there are few things stronger than an explosion spell from the Crimson Demon Clan's greatest mage, and that certainly lit a fire under her. He might be getting better at these motivational speech things. Several hundred meters away from the town wall. Darkness-san, I know you like this kind of stuff and all, but shouldn't you be with the rest of us while Kazuma started before he was interrupted by darkness? I can understand why you would think that, given how I act. But this is something far deeper. It is my duty and my honor to protect these people in this land. A noble's pride, while Kazuma would love to believe that, and he knew it was at least somewhat true. There's no denying that Darkness also wanted to do this just for the sake of it. Do you really think that I would forsake duty and honor for the sake of pleasure? She asked rhetorically. Yes, absolutely, Kazuma responded without missing a beat. Darkness lost her footing and started hyperventilating. And this is my girlfriend now. Izuku thought from his side. He was going to need to get used to this eventually. I get that you're going for the knight in shining armor trope, but why this place specifically? Kazuma asked. Darkness then explained that the noble lord that gave Izuku his title was her father. What? You're a rich girl, Kazuma said, clearly shocked. He really shouldn't have been. Darkness always used very rare and valuable gear. Her armor was full steel plate, and her sword could handle several hits from Verdia's magical greatsword. You guys don't have to worry. I'm fairly certain that my plan should work. If everything goes well, then that thing won't even get within a kilometer of the city. Izuku tells them. They both let out a sigh, Kazuma in relief and Darkness in disappointment. 30 minutes later. Okay, Aqua-chan, I'll use Magic Canceller on it the moment that you break the shield. that should shut down its internal systems too, at least hopefully. From there, Megumin-chan and Wiz-chan should be able to finish it off. She nods and prepares her staff ahead of time. The ground began to quake as the monstrosity approached the town. The moment it appeared over the horizon, Izuku rushed over while yelling, "Start casting the spell in 40 seconds. At full speed, he reached the robot in under 50 seconds. Noticing that Aqua's sacred spell break started rocketing towards him, Izuku took a deep breath and prepared his spell. The beam of holy magic collided with the barrier, and it did its job. To the barrier's credit, it held itself up for a good half-minute. Eventually, it did collapse, leaving the destroyer completely vulnerable. Izuku activated my magic canceller, which shut the thing down completely. The drain was much lower this time. He could probably keep it up for a good few minutes until he ran out of mana. He didn't have to hold on for very long, however, since 2 explosion spells rocketed towards the machine. And then another. And then another. Megumin, stop. It's already dead. It was so badly damaged that the cockpit was blown wide open. In fact, the interior of the machine was completely visible, including a small, pulsing ball that looked like a small sun. Izuku let go of his spell and sigh in relief. It was over. Crap, did I just raise a flag? Critical damage detected. Self-destruct protocol initiated. Well, screw me, I guess I should have known. These things always have a self-destruct option. Izuku looked back towards the city. It was pretty far away, but it would still be dangerous to let this thing blow up so close. Izuku decided to run back towards the city. They were all cheering, ignorant of the incoming explosion. Izuku ignored that and ran up to Wiz. She was a bit tired from the explosion spell and was also looking at Megumin in sheer terror after the rapid-fire explosion spell she threw around. Wiz-san, things went wrong. The destroyer is going to explode, and I need someone that can cast teleport. You and Yunya need to come with me. Izuku briefs her before grabbing her and rushing towards Yunyun, telling her the same thing before rushing off once again, both women in his arms as they approach the destroyer. A coronatite orb. That's probably what powered the destroyer for so long. Teleporting it somewhere else should stop the explosion. Good call, Izuku-kun. Wiz says, sadly, she didn't have enough mana to teleport it, and Yunyun could apparently only teleport to her village. Wiz, drink one of those potions I gave you. It should provide you with enough mana for 1 teleport if that fails. I have a plan B, but I will be left out of commission afterward. As Wiz drank Izuku's magical liquid, he went and got Yunyun out of the blast radius, just in case. While Izuku made my way back, he noticed that steam was leaving the remains of the robot. He quickened his pace and noticed was standing outside the destroyer. Itsuku-kun. It started to glow away. Dangerous white color, so I teleported away to a random area, but now it's steaming. If this keeps going, it will still explode, and the firestorm might destroy the city. She warned the green hero who looked resigned to his fate. Asterisk sigh. This is going to suck for me, but I guess it's time for plan B. Just do me a favor and carry me back to the city after I do this. Izuku tells her. She looked confused as the green mage walked towards the steaming fortress. His whole body erupted into emerald lighting as he used something that under normal circumstances would leave him crippled for life, if not outright kill me. Thankfully, he had several safety nets available to him. He grabbed one end of the destroyer from below and gave his mightiest yell before pulling up with all of my might. All of it. 1,000,000% Tokyo table flip. The destroyer creaked for a moment before it was flung into the air and landed several thousand feet away into a local wasteland. Izuku's arms were broken. His legs were broken. His spine was crushed, almost turned to dust. All of his ribs were broken. And to top it all off, none of his nerve endings were affected, so he had the luxury of feeling all of the pain. Itsuku-kun, I have no idea how you just did that, but I'll take you to Aquasama right away. Human spines shouldn't bend that way. Wiz yelled in alarm as Izuku passed out in her arms. The pain was way too much, and he really wanted to take a nap. His final thoughts before embracing the abyss were, I hope that coronatite wasn't transported anywhere important. turning the tables on an arrogant noble. Fair warning, I'm stealing somebody's joke from my reviews because it's just too good. They know who they are. Thank you for your sacrifice. Izuku was seriously considering becoming an Axis cult member. Anyone who could take away the overwhelming pain that he was experiencing deserved his worship. Val, Itsuku-kun. You managed to break your record for broken bones. Vadum TSS nevermind, Eris best goddess. Izuku stood up on his feet, still in a daze from what happened earlier. I should thank Yun later. If she hadn't teleported us back, I might have died again. But first things first. Thank you, Aqua-chan. I was pretty much at death's doors there. What happened to the destroyer? I tried my best to toss it in a safe direction, but I was in too much pain to really see the aftermath. Hopefully, he didn't crush some poor farmer or something. Oh, stop worrying. You were amazing. I knew you were strong, but what you did back there reminded me of that old half-breed. Heracles. Well, that was good for one's pride, being compared to a literal god of strength. It was then that Izuku's awareness started to come back in earnest, and he noticed how the other adventurers that had given him space to heal were starting to crowd around him again. They were all yelling their hysterical thank yous and words of praise as Izuku just stood there, too tired to run away as usual. He raised his hand a bit to get their attention, and to his surprise, their cheers died down a bit as they let him say his piece. Thank you. Now I do have a few words to say. I want to thank you all for your assistance against the destroyer. My party may have done the lion's share of the work, but you all made it much easier. There. Cheers reemerged, even fiercer than before. Izuku lifted his hand again to tell them that he wasn't done. With that said, I would really like to just go home and rest after breaking essentially every bone in my body. Thank you for understanding. Let's go, guys. His party took pity on him and followed without complaint, except for Aqua, who didn't quite get the memo. Itsuku-kun, why are we leaving so soon? We would probably get free food and drinks if we went back to the guild hall. OH, are we going to have a party at the mansion? Izuku stopped moving and pressed both of my hands on Aqua's shoulders, trying his best to keep his voice level and cordial, but that might have just made it worse. Aqua-chan, I'm going to be as clear as possible. I just spent the whole day consoling Kazuma over his possession yesterday, dealing with the emotional roller coaster that was yesterday, waking up to an alarm and finding that a city-sized mechanical monster was on its way to destroy my new home. I ran a combined 100+ kilometers trying to stop it myself and coming back. I used up all of my mana twice and then proceeded to break every bone in my body at the same time while lifting said city-sized machine into the distance. Halfway through Izuku's rant, most of the party had taken several steps back and started sweating heavily. This was the most pissed off that they have ever seen him. So, again, let me be perfectly clear. I'm going home. I will go into my bed. I will sleep for a full 12 hours. And if anybody wakes me up before then. Izuku left it at that, half because he was too tired to come up with a believable threat, and half because the silence made it more effective. It's not like anything could go too wrong if you just took a nice long rest, right? Exactly 12 hours later, Guild Hall. I sleep for a day, and this shit happens. Izuku yelled at the top of his lungs as darkness explained why Kazuma was missing. Apparently, a group of royal knights showed up at the Guild Hall, searching for the person who authorized the teleportation of the Coronatite sphere, aka Izuku. Kazuma decided to take his place and was arrested immediately and imprisoned at the local jailhouse. The other adventurers tried to stop them, but they were intimidated by the threat of mass imprisonment. That just made Izuku even angrier. He took a moment to calm himself down before deciding what to do. Walking up to his party, he gave his orders. Darkness-chan, Eris-chan, you're coming with me. This all smells like petty noble bullshit, and I'm going to need help to get us out of this. Best case scenario, the issue is dropped by the end of the day. Izuku commanded. He was usually a lot laxer with the group, but when shit hits the fan like this, he had to put his foot down as the de facto leader of the group. Town prison 1 hour later. Halt! State your business. A guard stopped the trio from entering the building. Izuku kept up a stern look and spoke with the most authority that he could summon up. I am Izuku Midoriya, These two are Irisviel and Dustiness Ford La Latina. We have come here to discuss the arrest and detainment of our party member. I would like to speak to your superior immediately. The guard didn't seem to note Izuku, but the moment Darkness' real name was mentioned, he stiffened and nodded furiously. All right, away. Please enter. My superior, Sena-san, is 2 doors on the right. She is currently interrogating your companion. He told the 3 in haste. He was obviously afraid of pissing us off now. The wonders of having political power in a medieval world, I suppose Izuku thought to himself as they rushed towards the door, opening it without preamble to find a sweating Kazuma and 2 royal officials dressed in semi-modern-looking uniforms. The male one was writing down notes while the female one was sitting across from Kazuma. She was looking at the intruders in surprise and annoyance for coming in unannounced. And who might you 3 be? I'll have you know that you are trespassing on government property and interrupting an interrogation of a potential treasonous adventurer. She yelled at the trio, while Izuku grew progressively angry. Quiet, Izuku said with a level voice. It was not a suggestion. That was all that was needed. Sena shut up at that moment, an unknown pressure sealing her lips shut. Izuku took the moment of silence to grab the investigation briefing to see exactly what happened. First of all, you have the wrong man. Kazuma-kun over here had nothing to do with the teleportation incident. I was the one to authorize it. You just took the blame for my sake, which I am thankful for. Izuku explained, giving Kazuma a kind smile. His loyalty wouldn't be forgotten. Furthermore, you people have taken my vassal, my partner, and my friend without prior warning and without consulting me. That certainly got their attention, their faces paling seconds later. Taking from a noble was a serious offense after all. It's what got Kazuma arrested in the first place. Although the woman, Sena, had a large blush on her face for whatever reason. He'd deal with that later. This is what's going to happen. Kazuma-kun will go free. I will take his place. If anyone causes him trouble while I'm here, I will know, and things will get ugly. Am I understood? They nod furiously. Kazuma doesn't even question his position and just grabs Eris and Darkness on his way out the door. Izuku sat down in the same chair that Kazuma was using and looked at the woman in the eyes. I apologize for being short with you two, but I had a long week, and waking up to the news that my best friend was arrested for something that I did has all but erased my patience. He apologized. He was rather rude to them and probably could have handled it in a more diplomatic fashion. It's fine, my lord. May I please know who you might be? I'm not familiar with any noble who matches your appearance. That was fair enough. Izuku had barely a few weeks of being a noble after all, and even then it was just a minor title. Izuku nods cordially at Sena's question and introduced himself. I am Izuku Midoriya. It's a pleasure to meet you, Sena-san. It's understandable that you haven't heard of me yet. I only became a noble about 2 weeks ago. I'm the new owner of a fairly large piece of land in the northeast of Axel. My title is Baron. They nod, and the male starts writing on a fresh piece of parchment. How do you know my name, Midoriya-sama? She asked me with curiosity and a hint of fear. Having a noble know your name was a double-edged sword. Having a pissed-off noble know your name was a death sentence. The guard at the entrance told me. And please, call me Izuku-san or just Izuku. I'm not one for formality in general. They relax a bit at that. A noble without a stick up his ass now, that was a surprise, though not an unwelcome one. Very well, Izuku-san. Thank you for that. It makes this a lot easier on us. Will you please answer some of our questions? They will help us determine the truth behind what happened. As a fair warning, this bell is magical. It will ring whenever it detects a lie. Sena explained while gesturing towards the device. Izuku's eyes light up a bit, and he goes on one of his infamous spiels. That's amazing. How would something like that work? Would it detect lies based on speech patterns, or does it read the user's mind? But what if someone truly believes a lie that they are telling? Would it still work? He mumbled before noticing Sena's incredulous stare a bit too late. Izuku stopped himself and took a deep breath. I'm sorry about that. Back in my homeland, magic devices were a rarity, so analyzing and writing about them has become a new hobby of mine. He bowed in apology. She recovered quickly and waved it off, stating that eccentric nobles were nothing new. Now, for the first question, where are you from? And what did you do before becoming an adventure good? A simple question to start things off with. Hopefully, they don't ask him to elaborate. Izuku would answer, truthfully of course, though he should probably watch his wording. I was born and raised in Mizutofu, Japan. Before arriving here, I was a student training to be a hero. The bell remained silent as the man wrote down my words. Kazuma-san also stated that he was from Japan, although he didn't specify a city. You said that you were training to be a hero. How does one do that exactly? And can you please tell us where the country of Japan is? These would be a bit more tricky. The title of hero holds a specific meaning where I am from. It is a position in the government, not unlike a knight or guard of a city. We train ourselves in combat, legal knowledge, general studies, and various other subjects to prepare ourselves for becoming heroes. He explained the job in general terms. It was a bit more complicated than that, but the bell seems to have given him some slack. As for where Japan is, I will be honest, I have no idea where it is located in relation to this country. All I know for sure is that it is very far away and that most people would not be able to reach it in their lifetime. Considering that Izuku had to die to get here, he wasn't lying about that part. More furious scribbling could be heard. Senna's eyes grew a bit wearier at his answer, but she continued. If this place is so hard to get to, how did you make your way here? Please understand that the way you phrased it made it sound like you had outside help. Inhuman help. Tama, choose my words carefully. This could make or break everything. If you're talking about the Demon King, then no, I hold no relation or allegiance to him or his army. My help came from the polar opposite, in fact. Again, no ringing. And Senna seemed to have a new look of fear on her face. I may have overdone it a bit. Great, now they must think I'm crazy. You have the favor of a divine. Which one? Actually, no, forget it. Please just forgive us for our rudeness in assuming the worst. She got up and did a full bow, clearly ashamed for what happened. Right? Religion was kind of a big deal here, so divine intervention was far from unheard of. Please, Senna-san, calm down. You were just doing your job. I was only really mad over what happened with Kazuma-kun. Anyway, if you don't mind, I would like to speak to the governor that authorized this investigation. Blaming them would solve nothing. Sure, they were a little rude, but the order came from higher up. It was useless to blame the enforcers when the legislator was the real cause. While it is true that I had no intention of bringing him or his property harm, I still owe the man an apology for ordering the teleportation in the first place. They agreed to it readily. Izuku didn't have to wait long since most higher-level nobles had archwizards on retainer for transportation. The perks of being rich, I guess. So you're the lowly adventurer that dared to destroy my manor. I assume that you brought me here to deal out his punishment. Myself, a morbidly obese, arrogant blonde waddled in a few moments later. Why is it always the blonde ones? Izuku thought to himself. Izuku-san has actually been proven innocent of any treasonous involvement. However, he has admitted to being the one to order the Coronatite to be teleported. Thus, the crime has turned from a criminal case into a civil one. As such, Lord Alderp has been brought in to make his demand for compensation. Senna gave the man the gist of the situation. He seemed annoyed before returning his gaze to Izuku. Intent is meaningless. He destroyed the home of his city's lord. As such, he should be killed for committing treason, intentional or not. The man said imperiously. The two officers couldn't talk back to him due to his status. Izuku wasn't so limited. So just because you had your property destroyed in a freak accident, you plan on sentencing me to death. I was planning on apologizing for that particular case of bad luck. But after seeing your attitude, I won't even bother. Izuku looked back towards Senna and the male worker that he never got the name of. Then an idea came to his mind. These pompous nobles were almost universally corrupt, right? And he had a magical lie detector right in the same room. Izuku smirked evilly and went to speak again. Since we're here, we might as well use the tools at our disposal, right? Izuku pointed at the bell. making sure that only the two workers could see him doing so. Lord Alderp was at the report. Given me said that your mansion was completely destroyed by the blast. Yet nobody was killed. How was that exactly? I was in the underground cellar at the time, as well as the rest of my staff. The bell remained silent. Though his answer alone was suspicious, what could he and his entire staff be doing in the cellar at the same time? Oh, and why were you all down there at the same time, and how deep and large did this cellar have to be in order to house so many people at once, Izuku asked. It would need to be a significant space, to say the least, more than what would be needed for even the largest of wine cellars. We were preparing wine for an upcoming party. Asterisk, what was that noise, he asked, not knowing what the bell was or what it did. He did lie, however, and for no discernible reason. Time for a hard and fast question. The trick to the bell is to remain silent. If Izuku surprised him, he might give himself away. Are you in any way connected to Demons the Fat? Noble stopped for a moment before turning purple and yelling back at the top of his lungs. Of course not, you impudent. Inconsequential stain. Asterisk ding. Got him. I didn't expect it to be that bad. I expected corruption, sure. Maybe a bit of fraud and money laundering here and there. But outright demonic pacts, I may have just struck gold. Izuku smirked while looking back towards Senna, who was shocked at what the Green Baron had just pulled off. Alderp wizened up to what was going on and started to make a break for it, but Izuku caught up to him easily and placed him in a hold. Maxui Guh. Before he could call out that name, Izuku shut his jaw shut. Demons could be summoned by invoking their true name, and Izuku wasn't about to let that happen. 1 hour later, after an intense interrogation. Baron Izuku-sama, on behalf of the Kingdom of Belzerg, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for uncovering that corrupt noble's dark dealings. You have done a service for this kingdom, and as such should be compensated accordingly. Izuku knew that this was just a formality, but Senna could do this without bowing so deeply. It was a little embarrassing. Please bring your party, along with any major members that were responsible for the defeat of the Destroyer, to the royal capital for the sake of direct compensation from King Belzerg himself. Teleportation scrolls, as well as fully paid room and board, will be provided for during your stay at the capital. She finished listing off all of her official business. Thank you for putting up with that, Izuku-kun. I know you dislike formalities, but it was necessary for what you have accomplished. Izuku just nodded and said that it was fine. By the time we finished with their business, it was already noon. Assuming that they were both hungry after such an eventful morning, Izuku invited Senna to eat with the party since she was going to be their guide while they were in the capital, which she accepted happily. She also wanted to apologize to Kazuma for the inconvenience and to praise him for protecting Izuku. Guild Hall minutes later. Izuku-kun, you're back. Aqua screamed and glomped Izuku the moment he entered the building. The rest of the party followed suit and asked their leader what happened. Kazuma was glaring at Senna the whole time. In fact, a good portion of the guild was giving her the cold shoulder, at least until Izuku told them to calm down and tried his best to explain what had happened. By the end of it, Senna all but collapsed on her knees and begged Kazuma to forgive her rash judgments. And Kazuma, being the socially awkward and introverted person with a weakness for beautiful women, that he was accepted the apology, which seemed to get the rest of the guild off her back. Izuku then told his party that Senna was going to be joining us for lunch, along with the news that she would be their guide while they stayed in the capital city. Aqua, bless her soul, accepted it without complaint and warmly welcomed Senna into the group. Megumin and Yun had no personal grudges with Senna, so they treated her well enough. Eris and Darkness took a bit of convincing, but they warmed up to her in the end, knowing that she was only doing her job. So, Izuku-kun, do I have to worry about another girl? Or is this one just sampling Eris teased her boyfriend along with Senna, who blushed crimson at the remark? Eris-chan, please behave. Senna-san has been through enough today. Plus, I'm still having a hard time figuring out what we are supposed to be, let alone what others would be like. Izuku admonished Eris. There was a time and place for things like that. So you're a polygamist. I can't say I'm surprised. A hero of your caliber, and a noble to boot. Anyone would be lucky to be with you. she said while blushing. Although Izuku could have sworn that she looked at Kazuma for a moment there before quickly returning to her food. For my own sanity, I'm going to ignore that. Darkness-chan, now that the old lord is being arrested, who is the new owner of the city, Izuku, asked the resident noble lady. She blushed a bit at the attention and at the reminder of her noble heritage, but answered anyway. Well, the former Lord Alderp was legally under my family's jurisdiction. However, his political power rivaled our own, most likely due to that demon he contracted. She said in a slightly bitter tone. That lord must have been a pain for her family too. The land itself belonged to the Dustiness house, however. It was given to the kingdom as a sign of fealty, and Alderp was the reigning noble in charge of collecting taxes. Now that he's gone, the House of Dustiness and the royal family will decide how the land will be redistributed. She finished her explanation. That's something to think on later, but for now, I'm just too tired. I should really just rest for a bit more. Izuku, though, before thanking Darkness for explaining things before finishing his lunch, after which Senna addressed the party at large. Are you all prepared to travel to the capital? I was ordered to bring everyone that had major involvement with defeating the Destroyer. I know your party did most of the work, but is there anyone else, right? Senna was never introduced to Wiz. Yes, though she may not want to go. She's a rather private person and is easily intimidated. Plus, the capital might have anti-undead qualities to it, not even mentioning how protected the king must be. I'll ask her later, but for now my party and I should prepare our things. Feel free to come over for dinner tonight. You too, Luna. Chan, I call out to everyone's favorite waitress. She replied with a thumbs up. From there, the party went home for a well-deserved rest. They were going to need it for the days to come. Little did Izuku know that his life was about to reach a new level of complicated. Well, that was fun to write. Izuku has grown pretty confident in himself since coming to this world. Maybe being the man in charge has done him some good. Lord Derp has been taken care of for now, and a royal reward is waiting for our young hero. That should be interesting to see. Hope you all have a nice day. Unintentional royal flex. By the way, if you want to imagine a King Belzerk, just take the Emperor from Gate and use him. Blonde hair, blue eyes, rugged appearance, the works. Alternatively, you could go with a blue-eyed Gilgamesh. Today, Izuku was meeting a king. No pressure, right? He thought to himself as he straightened out his tie. Yes, you read that right. I made a suit for this. Izuku was currently wearing a three-piece green suit with a black undershirt and a red tie. He pulled out all the stops with this one. Back in Japan, this would be worth a few 100,000 yen, easily. He even managed to recreate some of his world's colognes, though he started regretting that last one when he noticed that perfume wasn't really a thing in this world. Oh, well, I already stand out, as is. Might as well go full throttle. All in all, Izuku looked like a nerd shamed into a high-class outfit. Completely out of place. For the last time, Izuku-kun, you look fine. Hell, that outfit is probably worth more than most nobles' whole wardrobes with how well you made it. Eris' voice shouted Izuku out of his nervous muttering. She didn't bother changing. Her godly robes were all ready. Well, divine. Not much could compete with that. Same with Aqua. Izuku made Kazuma a traditional green kimono with bamboo patterns and a black obi. He wanted to introduce some of our Japanese culture to this world. Izuku did it happily, though to be honest, it was mostly to take some of the attention away from himself. Darkness was wearing her regular formal wear that she wore after the incident. Moving on. Megumin and Yun Yun liked the idea of wearing kimonos and went for a red and black mix with flame patterns. Quite frankly, they looked adorable. Senna was in her basic uniform. She just might have an unlimited amount of copies somewhere. Sadly, Wiz chose not to come with them. However, Kazuma decided to make it up to her by putting in a good word for her shop. She seemed beyond happy with that and wished the party good luck. Are you all ready? Senna asked as the party finished collecting the things they were taking with them. Along with the suit, Izuku also had another copy of the full set underneath. With my luck, they might ask me to provide an exhibition or something. He also brought along his notebooks and a few writing utensils just in case. Yes, thanks again for being our guide, Senna-san. It's nice to have someone you know for these kinds of things. Izuku responded with a shallow bow. Senna smiled and nodded, then proceeded to unwrap a scroll that she was holding. Mass teleportation allowed multiple people in a 3-meter radius to travel long distances. I really should update my adventure card. Last time I checked it, I was only level 10. Since then, I defeated a demon general and a natural disaster class enemy. Izuku had some thinking to do later. Maybe Megumin could help him decide. Never mind. Izuku blinked once, and when he opened his eyes again, they had already arrived. In the throne room, with the king sitting right there. WHI. While Izuku's brain was rebooting, King Belzerg stood up from his seat and addressed them. So these are the adventurers that lead the charge against the demon General Beldia, and this young man in the stylish green clothing, he destroyed the mobile fortress reboot complete. Man, this guy was intimidating. He had a strong aura too. Get your ass in gear, Deku. You can't mess this up. Yes, sir. Our party dealt with Beldia along with the help of the other guild members. We were also the ones to fight the destroyer. I just happened to finish it off is all. Izuku said the last part sheepishly. Really, it might have been his plan, but it was Aqua, Megumin, and was that pulled it off. A modest one. Senna told me about that. But to think that you would downplay such an important achievement. Frankly, it's a breath of fresh air compared to the usual braggart nobles and hero candidates that enter my throne room, he said with a small smirk. But you're also a brave one. Most would be bowing at my presence. Even those friends of yours are shaking at the knees, yet you appear unfazed. Why is that? Izuku's eyes widened at that, and he looked back at his friends. They were indeed shaking slightly. Only Eris and Aqua appeared unfazed. Megumin and Yunyun were acting as if they were staring at the destroyer again. Darkness dealt with it a bit better. Being a noble probably meant she was at least a little used to his presence. Kazuma was also surprisingly calm, if a bit nervous with how his jaw was clenched. I notice your aura too, sir. It's just, I felt stronger. Izuku answered honestly. All Might's presence was hard to beat. Stain wasn't too far behind in terms of raw aura either. The king's eyes widened a bit before he sat back down. Is that so? Might I ask who else would have a presence similar to mine? The king questioned curiously. It wasn't often that he heard of anyone that could be stronger than him. Izuku's face brightened a bit at that. My former teacher, All Might. He was the strongest man I've ever met, but his conviction and ideals were even stronger than his fists. Izuku said with a smile in memory of my master. Total respect in his voice. All Might. That sounds more like a title than a name. But if you say that he is stronger than me, then that title might be accurate. Not many can catch up to Belzerg royalty after all. King Belzerg said with clear pride in his own voice. So, the whole family is this unnaturally strong. I guess it makes sense. They would have access to the greatest resources that this world has to offer. And since EXP can be earned by eating high-quality food, he was probably a higher level than Izuku was. I highly doubt that. A young, high-pitched voice came from behind the party who all looked back to see an adorable little girl, probably a little younger than Megumin. She had blonde hair, blue eyes, and a sword strapped to her side. A clearly magical sword too. Even while it was sheathed, Izuku could feel the magic radiating off of it. It reminded him of Graham in a way, but more refined. That must be the princess. And she's also pretty strong judging from that aura. Izuku thought as Iris walked up to them. Oh yeah, and who are you? Little girl, what do you know about Izuku and I? Kazuma went to defend his brother much to Izuku's panic. The girl scoffed and blew him off. And why should I listen to a man in a dress? At least that subplan worked like a charm. It's a kimono, the formal wear of my homeland. Kazuma tried to defend his style, but the princess just pointed towards Megumin and Yunyun to prove her point. She then walked up to Izuku and started poking his face. Excuse me, why are you poking me? Princess Izuku asked politely. Her father coughed into his hands a bit, and she adopted a sheepish look, realizing how rude she was being, though she was a bit too prideful to admit it. I was checking out what made you so special. Honestly, I'm not impressed. What level are you anyway, she asked, half in curiosity and half in disbelief of Izuku's ability. She was thrown for a loop, however, when instead of bragging, as usual, Izuku had honestly no idea. I honestly don't know. The last time I checked was a few months ago. King Belzerg nodded and then clapped his hands. A group of servants entered the room carrying a larger version of the crystal. Used at the Guildhall one that was easily triple the size of the standard one. And those runes. This was some high-level stuff right here. Go ahead, young man. I'm rather curious about it myself. The rest of your party should do so as well. Consider it a token of our gratitude for your services to the kingdom. If it helps, my darling Iris here is level 45. I myself am level 78. Holy crap, she has a higher level than Mitsurugi. And the king. He dwarfs anyone I've ever met before. Kazuma smirked and places his hand on the orb first. A bright green light erupted from the orb, and a dark silver card was created. The card read as follows. Kazuma Sata Class. Adventurer level 39. Strength 65. Vitality 80. Intelligence 124. Wisdom 98. Dexterity 180. Luck 810. Not bad. Your brother is on the same level as the highest-ranked Imperial Knights. Not many can achieve that level of power, especially with such a weak starting class. Kazuma beamed from the praise. Having his ego stroked by such an important person must have felt great for him. Iris looked a bit surprised by the high level, but she still dismissed it in the end. If such a great adventurer had a lower level than a 13-year-old, then they couldn't be that impressive, right? Eris went next. Her light was a brighter silver compared to Kazuma's. Her card was also different, being a shinier silver compared to Kazuma's darker color. Her stats read as such. Irisviel Midori Anani. Class. Thief level 42. Strength 80. Vitality 70. Intelligence 80. Wisdom 60. Dexterity 150. Luck. Error. Another strong level, and a thief this time. Interesting. But that luck. You managed to break the system. Only those blessed by the divine could pull that off. King Belzerg was truly shocked by that one. The only person that came close would be the other reincarnates, who chose a stat boost as a gift. Not that he knew this, of course. Again, Iris looked at the silver-haired beauty in curiosity. She must have internally apologized to her, if the embarrassed blush was anything to go by. Still, Iris still wasn't completely sold on this party, since neither of the two beat her out in terms of level. Izuku, on the other hand, was more focused on the beginning of the card. Eris-chan, why is my last name on there? This goddess, always teasing him, playing with his heart. She giggled into her sleeve and answered, What do you mean, Izuku-kun? I am yours after all. King Belzerg burst out laughing at this, which scared Izuku a bit. He waved them off, though, signaling the next person to go. Seeing this as a chance to show off, Megumin rushed in right after. Her light and card were matching shades of crimson. The card itself read, Megumin. Class. Archwizard level 60. Strength 30. Vitality 40. Intelligence 300. Wisdom 60. Dexterity 40. Luck 40. Oh my, that certainly blows most people out of the water. The level alone is in the same league as my son. Her intelligence is also rather high. And if our information is correct, you also know how to cast the explosion spell with great proficiency. Quite impressive. The king complimenting. Iris once again lost her composure and blushed out of embarrassment. Yin went next. Her card looked very similar to Megumin's, but was a darker shade of red. Sadly, her level and statistics were significantly lower, since she didn't really do much in the destroyer fight or the fight against Verdia. Yin. Class. Archwizard level 30. Strength 30. Vitality 40. Intelligence 270. Wisdom 90. Dexterity 55. Luck, 30. This one is a bit more average. Still, an archwizard of the 30th level is something to be proud of. These stats are also typical of a high-class adventurer. The king said kindly. Yin still looked a bit put out for being the weakest statistically speaking, but she bounced back quickly. Not much can keep her down, I guess, Izuku thought to himself with a smile. Aqua was next. She confidently walked up to Orb, and it flashed blue this time. A sapphire card was created, and it read, Aqua. Class, Archpriest level, 50. Strength, 92. Vitality, 80. Intelligence, 10. Wisdom, 54. Dexterity, 74. Luck, 1. A healer with a level of 50. How? Even our greatest healers aren't near that. You would have to provide near life-restoring healing on a daily basis to even come close. Aqua snuck a quick look at Izuku, which thankfully went unnoticed by the others. The green mage himself just kept his face blank. My powers are volatile, okay? It's not my fault transmute blew up in my face more often than not at first. Izuku mentally defended himself, and in his defense, magical healing had no downsides, unlike quirk-based healing. Darkness was second to last. This time, the orb flashed yellow, and a gold card was created. The card read, Lalatina Dustiness Ford Class, Crusader. Level, 38. Strength, 200 Vitality. Intelligence, 50. Wisdom, 30. Dexterity, 30. Luck, 300. Another fairly high level, as expected from a Dustiness Ford. Her vitality is off the charts. Literally, that's quite impressive, and that luck stat is nothing to scoff at either. This party is certainly worthy of its reputation, but now it's time for the leader to step to the plate, the king said while switching his gaze to Izuku. Izuku gulped before activating one for all at 80%, his current maximum with a full set. Any higher, and he would start getting fractures or straight-up broken bones. Laying his arm over the orb before a blinding light erupted. Soon after, a loud boom was heard, and the sound of shattering glass came right after. The orb had exploded, but not before it created a pure, crystal-clear adventurer's card. I'm so sorry, sir. I don't know why that. Izuku started to apologize, but the king laughed him off. Don't worry, young man. While this is certainly a first, that orb wasn't that valuable. It was only worth about $1 billionaire's give or take, so it's fine. The king waved off the destroyed property like it was nothing, which was fair enough. He was a king after all. Asterisk slap. Oh God, it's Yair-san all over again. And instead of a bubbly attitude, his rugged aura stops me from complaining. Izuku finally picked up the card and read it, with a hint of confusion in his voice. Izuku Midoriya Class, Archwizard Level, 69 Strength. Vitality. Intelligence, 350. Wisdom, 40 Dexterity. Error. Luck, 850. Well, this certainly explains why it reacted so violently. All of your stats, barring Wisdom, are at the elite level, and all of the physical ones are off the charts. Your dexterity is even unquantifiable. And that level, at your age, I wasn't even halfway there. You certainly are something special, young man. He ended his assessment with a hearty clap, and to Izuku's surprise, Iris started clapping too. She was thoroughly impressed by this adventuring party. That's nice. Maybe now she'll be a bit nicer to us. Izuku thought to himself, blushing a bit from all the attention. Now that pleasantries are out of the way, I would like to begin discussions on your reward for both eliminating the destroyer and for uncovering such a treacherous noble that was hidden under my nose for so long. The king returned to his serious persona as the party straightened their backs. Now that the former Lord Alderp has been arrested and stripped of his titles, a new lord needs to take over the duty of governing Axel. Normally this honor would go to House Dustiness, but seeing as it was a young, up-and-coming noble and the hero who uncovered his plot, it seems only fair that you should be given a chance at the title as well. he announced with a bit of pizzazz at the end. Izuku thought. Izuku said, mind and body working in tandem to show just how flip-flopped his life has become since coming to this world. Well, that was certainly a thing. Can Izuku weasel his way out of becoming a lord? What he want is Kazuma going to troll him the entire time? The answer to all of these questions is pretty obvious, and you're all intelligent people, so I'll leave them unanswered. A royal compromise. Let's see how our favorite green adventurer deals with this new development. I'm not apologizing, Kazuma. And to answer the question of the guy who asked why Izuku had a higher luck stat than Kazuma, keep in mind, he met the world's strongest hero on complete accident, who just so happened to have one of the only 2 quirks in existence that could be passed down. He then proceeded to break 3 out of 4 limbs in the entrance exam and almost took a 100+ meter fall before he even got into UA. But as luck would have it, he happened to meet, save, and befriend a girl with gravity powers that same day. He was also lucky enough to not kill himself while handling about 40 landmines worth of explosives. I know they were non-lethal, but that was individually, that many at once would totally kill on contact. He was then lucky enough to have a quirk that could snap him out of Shinsu's mind control, which was some serious BS, by the way, but plot armor, I guess. Not to mention how lucky he was in the show for constantly breaking his own bones and not sustaining permanent damage until he triple breaks them against. Muscular. He was then lucky enough to become the Goddess of Fortune's new boyfriend, which would obviously come with a few perks. Not to mention the harem. Let's face it, our younger green boy is one lucky bastard. If anything, Kazuma is the one with the crappy luck compared to his luck stat. The whole show pretty much revolves around him and his party royally fucking up due to sheer bad luck and stupidity. Why do you act so surprised? Think of it as a spoil of war. You took down a corrupt noble, and now you can take their place by rights of conquest. If you were just a regular adventurer, I could understand your reluctance, but you're already a noble. King Belzerg asked in curiosity. Most people would jump at the chance of receiving that kind of authority. To be completely honest with you, I became a noble by complete accident, Izuku admitted, rubbing the back of his head at the resulting awkward silence. Nanny, for the first time since coming here, the king looked genuinely shocked. His jaw visibly opened and his eyes wide. Izuku went on to explain the circumstances behind how he became a noble. By the end of it, both the king and his daughter were trying to hold in their laughter, the younger of which was failing miserably. Ha ha ha. Oh, gods above, that was a good one. I have half a mind to drop everything and make you my personal jester with stories like that. Seeing Princess Iris laughing at me was even worse. She had the Oju-sama laugh and everything. Eris is never going to let me live this down. Well, since you explained it so well, I must agree you are too inexperienced for such a responsibility. For that reason, I shall delegate power to the rest of your party. Lady Dustiness Ford shall become the acting Lord of Axel, as is her birthright. However, she too is inexperienced. Rubbing his chin in contemplation, he addresses the party again. Tell me, does anyone in your party have experience in business diplomacy or even basic things such as mathematics and writing? He asked them. Izuku nudged Kazuma and mouthed the word shop to him. Ah, yes. I sat to Kazuma along with a fellow adventurer who could not come today, Wiz. On a magic shop in Axel. Wiz is the real owner, but her business sense is terrible, so I help out when I can. Since then, the shop's profits have increased by 1,000%. Not surprising when you realize that the shop was in the red for the most part. And with Aqua helping out, their marketing alone brought in a veritable tsunami of new business. Impressive. Then you, Satu Kazuma, shall be the new treasurer for the city of Axel. You shall work directly under Lady Dustiness Ford and deal with any financial issues that may arise. Kazuma looked ecstatic. He always did say that he wanted a cushy position in high society. At least he did after he realized just how tiring actual hero work really was. Eris was the next to speak up. Aqua-chan and I can look after the city's religious needs. We are both quite high-ranking members of our respective cults. The king smirked at this and dropped a major bombshell on the party. Well, I'm sure you are. Eris-sama, Aqua-sama. Silence. Nobody dared to say anything. If you're wondering how I found out, Izuku-san here reverts to calling you Eris when he gets lost in the moment. Shit. And the name Aqua, along with the blue hair, blue eyes, and obvious divine artifact, was a dead giveaway. That Hagoromo was suspiciously shiny. Upon realizing this, Izuku was just surprised that they kept up the secret for so long. Besides, you two aren't the first, nor the last goddesses to visit our world. I have it under good authority that the goddess Wolbach has also descended. For what reason, I don't know yet. Logging that away for later. Possible future divine intervention was always important to note down. Diplomatic relations should be handled by a member of nobility with a good deal of experience. Therefore, Lady Dustiness will take over that side of things. Although seeing as it's the town of beginnings for most, I doubt any heavy-duty negotiations will take place there, so it will give you time to adjust. Darkness nodded. That seemed fair, she. We need to take over her father's duties eventually. This would help her practice. As for Izuku-san, please give me a list of talents that you feel may be relevant for a position in government. Don't leave anything out. Think of this as a surprise interview, he said jovially, putting the green hero on the spot. Great, I do best under pressure. Not Izuku thought with a bit of panic before just barely composing himself. Well, I know how to read and write, pretty basic but important. I can do high-level mathematics easily enough. I have experience dealing with money since Kazuma-kun, and I usually divvy up the rewards from quests, as well as plan large group purchases. Like the mansion. Aster's chuckle, sigh, never living it down. Obviously, I'm proficient in combat, and Kazuma-kun can attest to my teaching skill, so I could train up the local militia if the situation called for it. I can also transform and manipulate any substance into any other substance by touching it. This process also works in reverse, so I can convert physical matter into pure mana through touch. That last one might have been a bit much. Asterisk stunned silence. O.K. If I didn't know you better, I could have sworn that you were bragging halfway through. That's quite the list of skills. I got it. You, Izuku Midoriya, shall be the chief advisor to the other members of Lady Dustiness staff. When the time comes, I shall leave the city in your hands. But for now, use this job as a way to gain experience until you're ready. And just like that, our party became the new rulers of Axel City. I don't know whether my mom would be proud or disappointed at this point. Unconscious. Let's stick with unconscious. Izuku thought as they left the throne room, the whole party letting out a deep sigh of relief, before freaking out completely and coming to Izuku for answers. I need a vacation, Izuku thought, seconds after getting his first job. Izuku-ni, what are we going to do? I talked a big game, but I never expected this to happen, Kazuma said while shaking my shoulders. He dug himself into this mess. All I can really do to help him is to give him advice. Listen, everyone, I know that we've been given some great responsibilities, but I believe that we can pull through. Each of you has amazing talent that can be used to help Axel flourish, and I'll be there along with you all. I promise that no matter what, I'll never abandon this team. Who's with me? With a show of hands, the whole party agreed to try their best at the very least. Megumin and Yunyan got off lucky. All they had to do was help me if I ever decided to teach the city's militia magic. Well, there was another complication that Izuku failed to mention. Itsuku-kun, are we ready to leave? Came the voice of the party's new royal party member. By some black magic that they failed to understand, Iris decided that joining us would be for the best. She called it helping out the promising new noble get used to his job, and King Belzer bought it like it was on sale. The worst part is that she's really clingy. To Izuku, specifically, for whatever reason. Hopefully, her father won't kill him too painfully for this. Izuku could only hope. Although he did seem happy to let her come with him for some reason. I feel like I'm missing something here. Izuku thought to himself, already used to the feeling of being ignorant to important information relating to him. Izuku-san, our mass teleportation scroll has arrived. Do you have everything Senna asked as Izuku grabbed their reward chest? The burden of carrying it fell to him for obvious reasons. Not because of the whole leader carries the burden shtick or anything. He was simply the only one strong enough to lift the damn thing, since it was filled to the brim with platinum coins. Yeah, each one of those suckers was worth 100,000 Eris. With a full chest of these things, our party earned a total of 3 billion Eris in reward money. Apparently, Alderp was worth a considerable amount of money. Corrupt nobles are dangerous. Corrupt nobles with devils in their pockets, even more so. And corrupt nobles with devils in their pockets who went unnoticed for several decades, terrifying. That, along with a nice 3 billion reward for taking down the destroyer, added up to the absurd sum. Who would have thought that a city-destroying superweapon would have such a high bounty back in my world? The pros would just get some free food for a week after taking one of those down. I guess this world has its perks. The total would have been 4 billion, but I decided to pay for the magical orb that we broke. It would only be right. Now that I think about it, SHIGARAKI would have loved it here. Money is fairly easy to come by. The food is diverse and fairly cheap, and there's no light pollution either, so the stars are out in full force. Izuku felt a breath on his ear as Eris whispered to him, "Are you thinking of other girls when you have me right here?" That made Izuku jump out of his skin right as they teleported, and with his current use of OFA to lift the chest of platinum, it sent him all the way up to hit his head on the ceiling of the guild hall. Aitai. Izuku reverted back to Japanese in pain, causing Iris to turn to him in surprise. "You know the royal language." A royal language. The what now? Izuku asked, though he had a fair idea of what was happening. Iris looks at him in suspicion. "The royal language, known only to my family. It was given through us by a legendary hero that joined the family centuries ago. Nobody else should know how to speak it," she said in slightly broken Japanese. Izuku's eyes widened as he returned the favor, though with perfect Japanese befitting a native speaker. "Why, yes, this language is actually my native one. Kazuma-kun, Eris-chan, and Aqua-chan can speak it too," Izuku explained. He could have guessed that much. With how long this war was going and how powerful both the royals and their weaponry was, it was no surprise that they acquired something else from the other reincarnates throughout the centuries. Iris' eyes widened even further. Native. A goddess knowing the language I could understand, but 2 native speakers. So the royal family didn't know the true origin of the language. Oh well, if Iris was going to be part of the party, they might as well tell her. "I can explain that later. Most of my party already knows about the circumstances, so it would only be fair if we told you too." She squealed in excitement from this. Finding out hidden secrets behind one of her family's longest-standing traditions count her in. Izuku-sama, is she who I think she is?" A shy voice came from her left. Izuku's stomach dropped at that. "Right, I just brought the royal princess into a rookie town's guild hall without any warning." Crap. Izuku turned and noticed the odd looks from the other guild members. They then started to bow to Iris one after the other. "That's enough now. While I'm here, there will be no need for such formalities. From this day forward, I am just another member of Izuku-kun's party. I decided to join in order to help him with his new duties. It's a pleasure to meet everyone," she said with a curtsy. The adventurers erupted in cheers while screaming. "Our princess is so modest," as well as Izuku-sama strikes again. The mentioned mage ignored that last one for the sake of his own sanity. "What new duties?" Irisuma Luna said, unintentionally making Izuku's situation worse, though some would say it was better to just rip the band-aid off all at once. "My father decided to reward his party for the arrest of the corrupt former lord of this town." Iris went on to describe each of their jobs. Needless to say, the others looked towards Kazuma with a bit more apprehension now. "Well, he is the new tax collector. I am so sorry," Izuku internally apologized for Kazuma's inevitable infamy. "While I would love to catch up and chat with all of you, we still have business with Wiz-chan who wasn't able to join us. Once we deliver her share of the reward, we'll come back for dinner," Izuku told them as he and his party walked towards the exit. They were kind enough to give them a wide berth at least. When the party reached the shop, they were given a warm greeting from the local friendly lich. Though she was understandably shocked by Iris' presence, she got through it quickly enough. I guess after meeting multiple otherworldly beings, including 2 goddesses, A princess isn't too strange. Anyway, here's your share of the reward, Wiz-chan. Izuku handed her a bag full of platinum and gold coins. 625 million eris in total. Don't spend it all in one place. Izuku said with a smile, not noticing Wiz's shocked expression until she burst out in a confused panic. But I barely did anything. Why am I getting such a large share? The whole party smiled at her. Wiz was just too modest sometimes. Don't sell yourself short, Wiz-chan. You were the one that teleported the Corona Tide away, which, as luck would have it, got us a good chunk of our reward money. Plus, you saved my life after I broke every bone in my body. Honestly, I should be giving you even more than this. Her eyes widened and she shouted no, stopping Izuku before he could continue. This is already too much. You and Kazuma-kun and Aqua-sama and Arisama too. You've all helped me so much. For once in my long life, I've finally found success with my shop, and it's all because of you guys. I owe you more than I could possibly repay you. The party was shocked by this. Izuku in particular. I never knew she felt like this. Oh God, she's crying, no. Izuku gave her a tight hug, the rest of the party following suit. Iris decided to stay back, not being overly familiar with the shopkeeper and not wanting to ruin the moment. A warm group hug later, and was started to calm down. I think we all agree when I say this, but you are part of this party, whether you adventure with us or not. A clamor of agreements rings out from the others. Even Eris and Aqua managed to look past their natural hatred of the undead enough to accept Wiz as one of their own. If you ever need help, just ask. Because this party, it's become my new family, and I take care of my own, Kazuma said with absolute certainty in his voice. Yin got a bit teary-eyed at that, but managed to keep it in for now. Would you like to join us for dinner, Wiz? And we should talk about business, considering that our favorite shop just got some public investors. Izuku invited her over, to which she agreed with a wide smile. The full party then headed back towards the guild hall. Today was a good day, all things considered. Hopefully, they would all be able to meet the king's expectations. I wonder how much love Deku is going to receive from the townspeople now that a corrupt noble has been kicked out of power and a smart, kind, modern-day citizen has taken his place. Not to mention the whole having all of civilization's knowledge at his fingertips thing. I think he'll do just fine. P.S. I changed the conditions for Izuku's bounty reward. You can thank the user, have a little fight for that one. He made several good points about the economic shenanigans that would go on if it was kept as is, so I changed it to something a bit more mundane. This devil is a full-timer. Team Green Mansion. Yes, I'm calling it that. No, I'm not apologizing. Izuku and I, we have a very serious problem. Kazuma said. His expression was grave after reading several documents, each being magical in its own way. They were the city's tax sheet and the profit sheet. On the former were the various taxes implemented by the former Lord Alderp. After skimming it, Izuku could already tell the issue. Completely and utterly corrupt. Nothing else could describe it. Most of these tax laws were so complex that it took several rereads to even begin to understand them. That fat tub of lard was bleeding everyone dry without them knowing. I bet that demon he employed was responsible for writing most of these. Too bad they never caught that one. I see what you mean. We can't let things keep going like this. The other sheet was what sold it. Only 20% of what the people pay actually went back into public services. The rest just lined the governor's pockets. Yeah, and I thought Japan's taxes were utter crap. This just blows everything out of the water. No wonder so many adventurers were living in the damn stables every night. Lucky for them, changing these was easy enough. All they had to do was use a magical cleansing liquid to wash out the ink, then write new taxes or make revisions as they saw fit. Now the only question was, what stayed and what went? We should get rid of most of the minor taxes first. We can rewrite them later as the need arises. As for the ridiculous profits that were earned every year, offering a full refund would be logistically impossible at this point. Instead, we should use it for what it was meant for, funding. With Kazuma in full agreement, the two started to iron out the details. This city could use an agricultural overhaul right about now. We could make simple educational pamphlets and send them out to local farmers for free. That should help boost the economy in general and fill in any gaps that our tax cuts might leave. Izuku started with the bare basics. A society marched on its stomach. After all, we have to provide a secure, self-sufficient, and year-round source of food immediately. Nobody went hungry on his watch. And some better paychecks for the local town guard should also help. Normally, rookie adventurers are hired to fill in for various low-paying jobs to make ends meet. But if we actually give them livable wages, along with the tax cuts, then more people should show up. Unemployment goes down. Production and security skyrocket. Kazuma added, thinking more on the business side of things. He did spend a good portion of his early adventuring days living in abject poverty. This was just his way of fixing that. He really did have a good heart under all of that greed. And those were good points all around. They should talk to Darkness about implementing these right away. Her stamp was law now after all. We should meet with Luna-chan. Most of this city's labor force goes there to find employment, adventurer or otherwise. Darkness-chan should be there too. From what Izuku noticed, the place was completely full, day in and day out. Poor Luna seemed to be constantly overworked too. Maybe this would lighten her load. 20 minutes later, Guild Hall. Itsuko-kun, Katsuma-kun, welcome. Luna addressed the two personally with a bow. How may I help you two today? If you're looking for Darkness-chan, she's over there, she said while pointing to the back of the restaurant section. Thank you, Luna-chan. We're looking for her. And as a heads up, we've been looking into the city's finances. Long story short, the former noble in charge of this place horribly mismanaged them. You can expect things to get better before they get worse. Izuku whispered the news to her. She seemed surprised at first, but then shook her head. If anyone could do it, it's your party, Izuku-kun. I trust you all much more than that old traitor anyway. Good luck. With that boost to their confidence, the two green adventurers headed towards Darkness, who was looking through her own documents. Mostly established treaties and alliances to make sure that she didn't violate any of them unknowingly. Good morning, Darkness-chan. Izuku called out, causing Darkness to jump a bit. Good morning, Izuku-kun, Kazuma-kun. She noticed the documents we were holding. Is there something you need? The two nodded, showing her the documents and explaining what they wanted to do. Her face morphed into a serious look as she mulled over their ideas. I'll agree to it. If what you propose on doing will help this city prosper, then of course I will. I just need one of you to write down the specifics on paper. From there I'll see what I can do. After ironing out the details for a few more hours, they ended up with a halfway decent plan. Now all that's left is to find someone that can work as a manager. Yin Yin did say that she was going to be the leader of the Crimson Demon clan eventually. This might be good practice for her. Although her people skills leave something to be desired, Luna should be able to help with that. With his mind made up, Izuku walked up to Luna to make his proposal. Darkness may have approved of the changes, but the Adventurers Guild and Luna by proxy also needed to agree to the terms. This was going to be a massive change after all, and the new administration needed all the support they could get. After reading over their plans carefully, she looked ecstatic. Izuku-kun, this is amazing. With these reforms, our monthly income could easily quadruple. And with all of the extra work being taken care of without the need for supervision, I can finally. Her face turned shocked for a moment. She slowly turned her head and looked Izuku straight in the eyes. I can finally take days off every week. Before he knew it, Luna had thrown herself on Izuku and kissed him right on the lips. Izuku was so shocked that he didn't even notice when she let go and went off laughing like a maniac. Wow, didn't expect that one. Good work though, Izuku and I. That's another conquest under your belt. Kazuma teased him. Izuku was still processing, however, so he didn't react. Oh, for goodness sake. Izuku heard Eris say before he felt himself being lifted up. Eris-chan, why? Izuku panicked at the sudden change in altitude. Sena-san asked for you, but you didn't respond when I spoke up, so now we're doing this. Sena, did she need something from him? Wait, first things first. Eris-chan, Please let me down. I can walk now. She stopped moving and put him down. Sorry about that, Izuku-kun. Also, please watch what you call me. Although at this point, I don't think my identity really matters. She admitted. The higher-ups already know who she was, and the people in this town pretty much worship their party as heroes, so they weren't a problem. Besides, Aqua all but proclaimed her divinity on a daily basis. She doubted that anyone would believe them in the first place. Oh, right, sorry about that. Izuku apologized. As they kept walking towards the exit, he noticed Senna waiting for them. She had a worried look on her face, so Izuku increased his pace. Good morning, Senna-san. Is there something wrong? You look worried. She perked up at his voice and addressed the two. Ah, hello, Izuku. I would like for your party to take a special request from the kingdom. You see, Senna explained how earlier that day, a strange type of monster began to infest a place known as Keel's Dungeon. Apparently, they were small, humanoid, chibi monsters that latched onto people and exploded on contact. Oh, okay. I'll go get Darkness-chan, Aqua-chan, and Kazuma-kun. Then, Izuku said nonchalantly, he would bring Yun too, but she was helping out Wiz for the day. Something about a magical test dummy. If it's just a large group of weak enemies, then we should be able to handle it ourselves. She looked relieved at this and joined us as we gathered our team. Keel's dungeon was several hours away, so by the time they got there, it was already nightfall. Senna-chan was right. These monsters are strange and identical. Maybe their summon's heiress seemed to know more than me, since she gasped the moment she saw the little suicide bombers. That mask, it's demonic, the mask of Hell's Duke Vanir. But why is such a high-level devil in a place like this? So they were dealing with a devil, huh? Good thing they brought Aqua. From a mission briefing that the party was given, Keel's dungeon is fairly easy to navigate, especially with the map they were provided with. As they delved into the dungeon, Izuku couldn't help but feel underwhelmed. The little dolls were very weak. Even their explosions couldn't even scratch Darkness or himself. Hell, he was pretty sure that even Kazuma could survive a direct hit from them with only superficial wounds. Is this what people call being over-leveled? Izuku thought as they approached their target. Standing cross-legged at the center of a dead-end corridor was a masked man, playing with some kind of clay. He wore the same mask as the creatures along with a fancy-looking suit. He basically looked the part of the charismatic gentleman demon. So this must be Vanir. Correct. He suddenly called out, startling them. I am Vanir-san, the Duke of Hell, said to be stronger than the demon king himself. Now, why have you humans come so far to meet me? So he can read minds, most likely limited to a certain range. Correct again. You are a smart one. Since you know my name, I can assume that you knew that I was a demon general. Right, that was wrong. So he can only read surface thoughts. Good to know. I see that I've revealed a card from my hand. Clever. Well, if you truly did not know, then let me make this clear. I may be a demon general, but I wish you humans no harm. I merely keep the barrier over his castle powered. A general in name alone, if you will. That was nice and all, but his actions say otherwise. Those dolls pose a danger to any of the adventurers who come close. And as a beginner's dungeon, fatalities were even more likely. Oh, my apologies. I had used these dolls to make sure that this dungeon was empty. It seems that my work has been completed. I truly wished no harm upon the humans. They're my food source after all. Izuku activated one for all the moment he said this. Explain. Very carefully, he threatened, hoping that this was a succubus situation. That came out wrong. Vanir stops in his tracks and clears his throat. Indeed, you see devils like myself feed off of the negative emotions of mortals. Thus, murdering our food source would be counterproductive. Besides, my tastes are a bit more specific. I prefer the taste of shame above all else. He explained, being completely honest since he had no need to lie. That wasn't that bad, actually. Honestly, if he lived in a large city, he would have an all-you-can-eat buffet on a daily basis, especially with the succubi around. But why was he clearing out a dungeon of all things? Ah, that's an interesting story, you see. He began monologuing about his master plan. It feels like I'm home again. Izuku thought, relaxing a bit to hear the villain's maniacal speech. Essentially, the Demon King asked him to investigate what happened to Verdia. Surprisingly, he mentioned Wiz during his rant, not explicitly, of course, but not many people could be called a knucklehead shopkeeper who lost more money the harder she tried. Izuku got off topic. Vanir proceeded to explain his elaborate suicide plan that he came up with after he arrived, which basically boiled down to create a large, barely passable, but not lethal dungeon. Have some competent adventurers storm the dungeon, barely surviving while being trolled by gimmicks the entire way until they reach the final room. Show himself and battle the adventurers to the death, most likely killing himself since most people couldn't hold their own against the demon general. And finally troll them a final time by having a large chest behind him that only contained a note saying, "You lose inside." All in all, it was the most evil thing that I've ever heard. Why, you marvelously evil bastard. If you weren't our enemy, I would be praising you, Kazuma said with no shame whatsoever. He's gotten a lot more confident since he came back from the capital. Darkness looked scandalized by his comment, while Eris just looked resigned with her friend's attitude. Eris, oh my. I hadn't noticed at first. She hides it well, but your mind is an open book, young hero. I must say I'm surprised to see a goddess walking among us. Make that too. Those blue eyes, that blue hair, and that similar aura. You must be Aqua. Damn it. Finally, some regret, a hint of shame and self-loathing. It tastes delicious coming from such a pure soul. Izuku's sweat dropped at this. At least Vanir was honest. If I may ask, why do you want to kill yourself? Izuku asked in curiosity. Why would an immortal want to end it all? Oh, that's a bit of a misnomer, I admit. You see, my physical body resides in hell. If my current body were to die, I would simply be reborn with a new one. I simply wish to use this first life to cause as much suffering and shame as possible. Vanir answered jubilantly, no shame in his voice. Too honest. Well, if he wants to die in an epic battle anyway, might as well give him his wish. Before Izuku could launch himself at their demonic host, Kazuma spoke up with a sudden energy. If it's shameful suffering that you want, then I have the perfect job for you. Izuku was just going to let this happen. Kazuma hadn't messed things up too badly before. Now follow me on this one. Would you like to become a bureaucrat? Silence prevailed as the ridiculousness of the question sunk in. Kazuma, you idiotic genius. Vanir started laughing. Uncontrollably. He even started contort his body into odd angles from his laughing fits, until out of nowhere he stopped dead and stared directly at Kazuma. I am listening. Well, that was easy. Kazuma went on to explain how we were the newest rulers of the local city, and that we needed someone who could follow the laws to the letter while taking care of the paperwork involved with governing. You wish to give me a position where I can legally cause people suffering through their own mistakes. How perfect. I accept. Is this guy mentally unstable? He keeps changing his tone at random points. Or is this just a shtick? Oh, that's just how I like to add flair to my conversations. Don't mind me. Izuku really needed a vacation. And with their newest employee, he could probably afford to take some time off. Maybe Kazuma's idea had some merit after all. Konosuba, Wiz's shop. So, Axel's new governor now had a demon under his employment. How ironic. And the enemy army itself had a total of 2 demon generals out of commission. Eldia was obvious, being melted him into oblivion and all. Vanir decided to stop powering the Demon King's barrier ever since he accepted our offer of employment, which served as enough evidence for the government to confirm the kill. 500 million more heirs for that one. It could have been 3 generals, however. You managed to convince Vanir-san to join you. Wiz yelled out of sheer shock from what her friends told her. Yup, who knew all you had to do to defeat a demon general was to talk him down? Kazuma said with a thumbs up. Getting him there wasn't even that difficult. All they needed to do was take his mask, which acted as a soul phylactery, and sneak it past the guards. Amazing. You guys are truly amazing. Now, there are only 5 demon generals left. Not counting myself, of course. Izuku had told her that they figured out her identity when they first brought Vanir to her shop. At first she was scared, but the party managed to calm her down, saying that since she hadn't brought them harm in any way, they would hear her out. She explained that she, like Vanir, was a general in name only. She kept up the barrier over his castle by force, but otherwise she was free to live her life. Okay then, keep that up if you stop now. It would only look suspicious anyway. With Aqua-chan in our party, along with her high level, we should be able to destroy the barrier soon anyway. Izuku decided, looked relieved, happy that she could continue to live the life that she loved so much. Since we're on that topic, would you mind telling us anything you two might know about the other generals? Any information might help us tremendously. Izuku asked. Unfortunately, they didn't get much. Most of the generals had loose relationships at best. Especially Wiz. She only knew about Belida, Vanir, and the Demon King's daughter, who was also a general. Vanir was a bit more informative, though. There are two others that I am aware of. The first is a poison slime by the name of Hans. He is particularly dangerous due to his physiology. As for his appearance, he is rather average. Brown hair, brown eyes, and he usually wears a gold-beaded necklace with a large ruby in the center. He also prefers sleeveless shirts and has a small beard. However, he can change his appearance at will. This is just his default one that he uses most often. That was more than any of them expected. Hiring Vanir was already paying in dividends. Why, thank you, boss. Now, for the second general. She is more mysterious. I know not her name, only her appearance. She has bright red hair, yellow eyes, and an ovulum mark on her forehead. She also had elvish ears, although I doubt she was one. However, her most striking features are the horns that protrude upwards from her head. That was even better. With an appearance that unique, it shouldn't be too difficult to recognize her. She also had breasts that could rival the idiotic shopkeeper over there. He pointed at Wiz, who sputtered in indignation. I didn't need to know that. I know, that's why I said it. Ha ha ha. Right, devil. Thank you for the information, Vanir-san. Wiz-chan. If anything comes up, I'll make sure to contact you too. Oh, and Wiz-chan, please tell Vanir-san about Kazuma-kun's business ideas, I'm sure. He will love them. Izuku said before walking out before Vanir had a chance to read his mind. It felt good to pull one over on the guy. Asterisk sigh. I should ask Aqua if she knows any good vacation spots. She seemed like the kind of person that would look into those sorts of things. Izuku muttered, tired from his several days of back-to-back work and stress. Maybe I can even invite Luna-chan too. She could use the break. That's all for now. We're rapidly approaching the end of Season 2 now. Sadly, I don't have access to the light novel myself, so the extent of my knowledge kind of ends there. The only reason I know about some of the future events is from other fanfiction or from a wiki. I might just take that as my chance to upload another story all together, and with that I might even make a spin-off of this story that I mentioned in a comment a few weeks ago. Who knows? Either way, enjoy and have a nice day, everyone. This was supposed to be a vacation. Yeah. I'm making a small change to the Alcantaria arc. The Axis cult is known for their zealotry and complete insanity when it comes to their religion, so it only makes sense that they would be rather generous to their deity. Personally, I found it rather dumb that such a fanatical faction didn't notice when their literal goddess walked into their city, especially with how poorly Aqua hid the fact. Sure, it made it funny, but there's a limit to the absurdity. Also, it's convenient for me to change so meh. P.S. A shout-out to Red Burning Dragon. He noticed that I forgot to mention how Izuku knew who our new redhead friend was. I added that in as necessary, so thanks for pointing it out. Green Tea Mansion. Okay, so let me get this straight. Izuku has been saying that a lot recently, hasn't he? What has his life become? You own a city. Aqua nodded, and then elaborated at Izuku's request. Well, my cute worshippers own a city. And I own them, so yes, I own a city, in a way. Honestly, this didn't even scratch Izuku's top 10 in terms of weirdness, so he just went with it. And this city is a major tourist spot because of its hot springs. Aqua nodded again, still having that happy-go-lucky smile on her face. She may be a pain sometimes, but Izuku was genuinely glad that he met the goofy ball of energy. Thank you, Aqua-chan. I guess we have a vacation spot now. Her grin grew much wider. Looks like she was all for the idea. Yup, I'll go find Darkness-chan, Megumin-chan, and Yin-Yin-chan. Good. Kazuma and Eris were already packing, so Izuku would go. Pick up Luna, and Wiz later. They deserved a break too. But before that, it was his turn to prepare. Freshly made bathrobes for everyone, towels, emergency money, a few magic scrolls that he picked up from various magic shops, and finally some emergency food, just in case the trip took longer than expected. With the packing finished, Izuku headed over to the Guildhall again to tell Luna the good news. Guildhall. But Izuku-kun, who will fill in for me? A fair question, but Izuku had already prepared for that. He called over another waitress and showed her a bag full of gold. The poor, but not for long. Waitress' eyes opened so wide that they nearly burst out of their sockets. This bag is filled with about 5 million Eris worth of gold coins. It's yours if you fill in for Luna-chan here for the next week, along with 5 million more when we return. Izuku said casually as the younger waitress started foaming at the mouth before accepting frantically. Problem solved, and before you even say anything, I'm doing this because you deserve it. So there's no need to pay us back. You already help us on a daily basis. This is us paying you back. Tears start to form around Luna's eyes before she gave Izuku a quick kiss before running off to pack up for the trip. Izuku only rebooted about a minute later, a goofy smile on his face the whole time. Next up, Wiz's shop. Opening the door, Izuku saw something that he wasn't expecting in the slightest. Vanis-san. Why is Wiz-chan on the ground, unconscious and burned? Izuku asked in a sharp tone, waiting for an explanation. Well, you see. Okay, so just was things. We really should stop her from making any executive decisions for her shop. She may be the owner, but Kazuma, Aqua, and now Vanir took care of the real legwork. I'll let this slide then, though please limit your use of corporal punishment in the future. I'll be taking her off your hands now. We've made plans to visit Alkenrisha for vacation. She's welcome to join us. And for what I'm seeing, she could use it. Vanir accepted this. But for whatever reason, he cackled to himself before the two left. Weird, I should be worried about that, but it's vacation time, so I couldn't care less. Izuku thought before casting aside his worries. Wiz-chan looks really roughed up. Maybe Kazuma-kun can help her out later. I really need to learn more spells. Izuku hadn't updated his adventurer's card since he gained the magic canceller spell. It was about time for an upgrade. Kazuma, Aqua, and Eris were already packed and ready to leave at the front steps of the mansion when he arrived. They had already packed up their belongings in the carriage that Izuku had rented. It was large enough to hold up to 9 people plus cargo. It cost him a pretty penny, but since this was a vacation and Izuku didn't have to worry about horses, it was worth it. The party noticed him and questioned why he was carrying Wiz in a piggyback hold. She pulled a Wiz and got Vanir-san angry. Kazuma-kun, can you please use your drain touch to heal her? Izuku said, while lifting up his arm to provide the needed energy, and with the sheer amount that he had with OFA, it only took a few seconds for Wiz to regain color in her skin. Thank you for that. Now, all we have to do is wait for the others and we'll be off. If you all don't mind, I'm going to finally update my skills. Their eyes sparkled up at that as they grew excited. You're really going to update it? Finally, it was such a waste to see all of those stat points just sitting there. Though, I guess with that quirk of yours, you never really needed much magic. Kazuma looked to be the most excited. And he had a point. As an adventurer class, he naturally had higher costs on his skills, which meant that he was forced to spend most of his points each time he leveled for something even vaguely useful. Hey, why don't you change classes? Being an archmage is fine and all, but as an archpriest, you could be your own healer. And you can finally join the Axis cult too. Aqua tried to persuade him. Plus, as my close friend, you'll receive special treatment. She continued, nudging Izuku's shoulder. You might even be able to use the powers of Eris-chan and me at once. Isn't that better than some fancy mortal magic where you can pick up a weapon to learn? Fighting with your fists is fine and all, and it's certainly served you well so far. But having a backup plan would be useful. Eris made a good point. until Izuku noticed her smile grow larger as she also nudged his shoulder. And what better weapon to learn first than a knife, the progenitor of all melee weapons? Or maybe a bow to even out your melee and ranged. Options. Oi, no fair. I'm already the party's jack of all trades. If Izuku and I starts doing it too, then what would happen to me? Kazuma yelled out, realizing that he was being made obsolete. Comedic relief. Aqua answered, beginning yet another fight between the two. Just kiss already. Even I didn't take that long to realize that the other girls loved me. Granted, they had to literally join Izuku in bed before he noticed, but still. They all raised good points, though. Magic was already taken care of by Megumin, Yun, and was on occasion, so we really didn't need another Archmage. Learning how to use a weapon also made sense. All Might was able to establish himself as the symbol of peace with his own two fists. But I'm not All Might. I can't just keep copying him all the time. Wait, this can't be right. This class is basically made for me. Might as well. Izuku thought before swiping over the class name before his newly made adventurer's card changes. The wizard icon changing to that of a knight wearing chainmail, wielding a long sword with a crossguard. The paladin class. It uses faith to power their attacks. However, unlike a cleric or priest, the paladin uses an ideal as their source of power. The ideal could be anything: justice, friendship, family, peace, pacifism, etc. Izuku's ideal was rather obvious. It was what he always dreamed of being after all. And so long as he upheld that ideal, it would become one of his sources of power in turn. Izuku Midoriya. Class. Heroic Paladin Stat Points, 65. Skills. Magic Canceller. Available skills. Blessing of Strength, 1 point. Blessing of Agility, free. Blessing of Constitution, 1 point. Blessing of Luck, 1 point. Cleanse Magic, 5 points. Corruption Removal, 3 points. Creed of Protection, 3 points. Two-Handed Mastery, 6 points. One-Handed Mastery, 6 points. Ranged Weapon Mastery, 5 points. Cleanse Toxins, 2 points. Aspect of Heroism, 30 points. Détecte-les, 1 point. Intimidating aura, 1 point. Okay, I didn't expect that many skills, wow. Izuku muttered, while looking over each skill before dividing his skill points accordingly. By the end of it, his new skills look something like this. Aspect of Heroism, Blessings of Strength, Blessing of Agility, Blessing of Constitution, Blessing of Luck, Cleanse Magic. Cleanse Toxins, Detect, Lie, Intimidating Aura, Two-Handed Mastery. Ranged Weapon Mastery, Creed of Protection. Skill points, 9. Best to leave those there for later. You never know when you need something on the fly. Izuku mumbled to himself, which finally made the old married couple of the party stop fighting. They, along with Eris, who was trying to calm them down, walked up to Izuku and looked at his new class. Heroic Paladin, you never change, do you, Izuku-kun? Was Eris's first response. Izuku blushed at that, yup. He never did. Kazuma burst out laughing when he saw his brother's class. Heroic Paladin. And I thought Megumin was the Chuyuni of the group? Aster snickered that one Izuku expected. At least Darkness took it seriously. You chose a mixture between a crusader and a cleric. Very impressive, however. She blushed while staring at the ground in what Izuku can only assume was shame. You chose to master two-handed combat, even though I'm already our group's swordswoman. How shameful of me to need a replacement. Her tone of voice didn't match her words. Izuku decided to just let her have her moment. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks again for bringing me along. You have no idea how long it's been since I had a vacation. Actually, neither do I, Luna announced with a sing-song voice, almost like she wasn't quite sure whether this was a dream or not. Megumin and Yun gave her a wide berth at that until they noticed my adventurer's card and walked up. A paladin class, how rare. Usually the only people who can use one of these are high-level adventurers with high stats in every category. And even then, they have to believe in an ideal or cause worth living and dying over for it to work. Heroism, that definitely sounds like you, Izuku-kun, Yun says, leading into Megumin's inevitable Chuyuni speech. Izuku Midoriya-sama, the hero of Belzerg, so powerful and pure of heart that even the gods follow him. Nobles envy him. Women clamor over themselves to be with him. And at his side are the two most powerful crimson demons, ready to lay waste to his enemies. Megumin exclaimed as she spun a tale of Izuku's so-called legend. Oh, and Kazuma-kun can be the jester along with little Komosuke here, I guess. And immediately picked a fight again. Aster sigh, I love them, really I do. But they're about as peaceful as a group of hungry wet cats. Izuku lamented internally. Megumin-chan, is that cat yours? Izuku asked her. She blushed a bit and nodded shyly. It was times like these where she looked way too adorable for her own good. It's not too much trouble, is it, to keep her? Izuku couldn't say no to that face. Besides, he had no problem with keeping a pet. It seemed friendly enough. Except towards Aqua for some reason. But then again, most animals seem to dislike her. Oh well, better get going. If you're all done packing, then we should probably leave soon. Even my fastest, I doubt that we'll make it there by nightfall. Izuku tells them, causing them to freeze. They look at their leader, then at the carriage, then back at him. They notice the lack of horses. What do you mean at your fastest? Don't tell me you plan on pushing the carriage yourself. Kazuma asked in complete astonishment. The others weren't much better. Luna, in particular, looked like she was about to collapse at any moment. Yeah, it will be good training for me. I haven't really done weight and endurance training like that for a few months now, so it would be nice to get back to it. Izuku says nonchalantly, fondly remembering his training at the Goba Beach. Imagines of himself vomiting into a refrigerator that he had to carry later appearing in his mind. Good times. To see someone like you, a fellow noble, no, a hero of the highest caliber, reduced to a mode of transportation. I can't allow that. Please use me instead. Treat me as nothing more than a lowly beast, forced to pull you all along to your destination. No prizes for whoever guesses the identity of the madwoman who said this. No, my denial was too quick if the moan that she let out was any indication. You aren't strong enough or fast enough to pull the carriage and reach Alkenrisha in a reasonable time. She may have the stamina to do it, but even then it would take days. Something that Luna especially couldn't afford. Don't worry about it. I used to do stuff like this all the time, even without my quirk. In fact, it's similar to how I earned the power in the first place. And abandoning that training just feels wrong. I let it slide until now, since so much has happened, but I can't afford to keep doing that any longer. At this point, Aqua burst out into tears. Such determination, such a thrive to improve. You really are a hero. Was there any doubt? Izuku said he was, and sure, he never graduated, but saving the city multiple times and having several defeated supervillains under his belt had to count for something. Even so, I feel bad about making you do all the hard work on our vacation. It just doesn't feel right. Yun argued weakly, even though she couldn't really do anything to help him. Izuku just raised an eyebrow. You're not forcing me to do anything. I'm doing this willingly. If I wanted to, I could just rent some horses to pull it, but I genuinely want to get back to my training. I'll just say that my vacation officially starts when we reach the city. It shouldn't be that bad anyway. The full carriage, passengers and cargo included, only weighs about a metric ton. If Izuku tried pulling it when he first got here, he probably wouldn't be able to push it very far, or for very long. But now, Izuku activated one for all at about 20% and grabbed the carriage from the bottom with one hand, and then lifted above his head in one go. See what I mean? I don't even have to use my full set to do this, and I'm not even using my current limit either. I could pull this thing for almost a full day without getting too tired. Izuku might have overdone it a bit. The mages of the group were rubbing their eyes, trying to see if they were hallucinating. Luna passed out, finally done with the absurdity of the situation. Kazuma was crying manly tears of pride. Shattered pride, that is. He could never pull off a feat of strength like Izuku just did. Aqua was crying girlish tears of pride. Actual pride this time for her Axis acolyte. Somewhere along the line, she decided that Izuku was going to be an honorary Axis cult member, and if he was going to be a badass, then she would also look good by proxy. Darkness was giving Izuku jealous looks at what he pulled off. She was also blushing for reasons that Izuku refused to think about. Eris just shook her head and accepted it as another Izuku does something crazy and shrugs it off moment. Apparently the tally mark is at 240. With all arguments questioning Izuku's ability effectively silenced, they all went off towards Alkenrisha. Izuku kept his speed tempered at an even 20%. Any faster and his party spines would turn to mush after the long journey on an unpaved road. That being said, he was still traveling faster than any horse, easily at double their speed. So the party should arrive at Alkenrisha before the next day. When nightfall came, Izuku decided to take a rest. The party brought out the food and cooked up a nice meal by the fire. Or at least it was a nice meal until a mob of undead attacked then. Honestly, they were no problem. Aqua could handle them all by herself, but it still ruined the mood. They tried to get some sleep after that, but then a group of ravenous birds ran into our camp. Apparently, they were attracted by the resident rock-hard crusader. They're creatures that attack the hardest thing they can find, so I guess they're attracted to Darkness-chan's armor. Eris explained while Kazuma snickered. Either that, or they're attracted to her rock-hard body. Kazuma committed verbal suicide once more. I'm not saving you from that one, Kazuma and I. You're on your own. As Darkness was busy kicking Kazuma's face, Izuku quickly took out the birds that were attacking them. They weren't particularly strong, just determined. Team Green, minus Izuku, Eris POV. Man, I feel bad for Izuku and I. This is supposed to be a vacation, but he's the only one doing all of the work. Kazuma commented. Aqua took exception to this. What do you mean by all the work? I was the one that took out those zombies. And to be fair, she did, though Kazuma was probably talking about physical labor. Modest as always, Aqua-senpai. He did say that his vacation didn't officially start until we reached the city. I've seen his old training routine back when he was still alive in his old world. Don't worry, he'll be fine. That was a partial lie. I was sure he could do it. Without a doubt. But it really wasn't fair to him. But the best I could do now was to not get in his way. So with a smile on my face, I turned in for the night. No sense in being exhausted. Tomorrow, I'll let my super-powered boyfriend handle the grunt work. Next day, Alkenrisha, Green my POV. Do you know how someone would react if a human-drawn carriage, moving faster than any horse, and carrying the spitting image of both your goddess and her junior surprisingly tame actually? One man in particular summed it up. Aqua-sama, that must be you, right? Who else would have such a beautiful shade of blue hair, or such perfect blue eyes, and that divine feeling Hagoromo? Also, that silver-haired woman, it must be Eris-sama, right? I guess that's cool too. He finished his sentence with much less enthusiasm. I guess these guys are a lot more in tune with the divine. People did keep calling them zealots, so it makes sense. Izuku thought as sweat poured from his body. He talked a big game, and to be fair, he delivered. But now he was beyond exhausted, and he really needed those hot springs at the moment. The party made its way to the nearest inn, and to their delight, the owner also recognized Aqua on sight and gave them his best rooms for free. They weren't about to question it, so they simply accepted his generous offer and went in to unpack their gear. Except for Izuku, who was being left out of it to give him some time to decompress. Izuku, accepting this, immediately grabbed his bathing gear and said that he was going to find the nearest hot springs. The others readily agreed that Izuku needed a break ASAP, so they let him go on his own, promising to meet him there later after they finished unpacking. Luckily for Izuku, he found one nearby. It was rather large too, almost twice the size of the others that he saw nearby. I wonder why Izuku thought before paying his fee and making his way in. Sinking into the warm water was heavenly, making Izuku let out a heavy sigh as he sank deeper and deeper. I needed this. He really did. His bathing partner seemed to agree with him. Yeah, I could tell that you were full of stress the moment I saw you come in. Izuku's eyes snapped open like a certain squid that we all knew and vaguely related to. Right in front of him, through the mist, sat a beautiful red-haired woman. A very familiar red-haired woman. with elvish ears, and a certain aura of energy to her that Izuku found very familiar. Divinoha. Crap. Play Ost. Golden Wind piano theme. Oh, fuck my life. To make matters worse, a brown-haired man with a small beard was sitting next to her. And knowing my luck, that's Hans, the one general that I can't do anything about. At least he couldn't kill Izuku outright. Cleanse toxins should take care of that. But the others, I can't allow them to get close to my party. Wolbach I could handle, but the invulnerable slime, too risky. He had to respond, or they'd get suspicious. Oh, hello there. Sorry, I didn't notice you at first. Izuku gave a slight bow. Never. Taking his eyes off theirs. Half because he was paranoid, and half because... Asterisk boing. No problem. You looked really tired. Long Journey Wolbach asked him, either not noticing or not caring that her towel wasn't covering her top half. You could say that. I didn't get much sleep last night after those Hawkites attacked. Wolbach's face grew surprised at that. You were attacked by Hawkites. It's a small miracle that you survived unscathed. You said you fought them off. You must be really strong. Hans was the one to say that, looking a bit suspicious. Not anyone could take on a herd of Hawkites, even as a full party. Izuku had no idea those things were considered to be that tough. Maybe he just ran into a comparatively smaller herd. Yeah, they weren't that tough. There were only about 200 of them, so I managed to take them all down quickly enough. It just made me paranoid while I slept, so I didn't rest very well before taking us here. Izuku froze a bit at my slip-up. That might be bad. Wow, you took on a whole herd on your own, while defending other people. Only high-level adventurers can pull that off. Good job. Wolbach gave me a thumbs up after hearing my story. Good. They didn't question the part where. What did you mean that you brought others here? Did you fund the trip? Or something? I thought you were just hired muscle or something. Hans observed as he narrowed his eyes and thought. Asterisk sweats heavily. Yeah, whatever. Yo, I'm getting out early. Got work to do and all that. Enjoy the hot springs, I guess. Later, he excused himself and walked away, leaving Izuku and the rogue goddess to themselves. An awkward silence descended upon them as they stared into each other's eyes. So, what did you mean when you said you brought others here? Well, that was an icebreaker if ever there was one. Now that they were alone, a change of tactics might be in order. Ah, you see, that was a bit of extra training on my end, to keep me sharp before my vacation. I pulled the carriage myself, that's what I meant. She looked like the mage type. Maybe this will intimidate her enough for her to back off the city. Demon generals weren't known to be very loyal to each other. In no way. Where did you come from then, and how many people? Who could pull one of those things and expect to arrive in any reasonable amount of time? To say she was shocked would be an understatement, but she might have been surprised for the wrong reasons. And you look so skinny. No offense, it's just that I would never expect someone of your build to be strong enough to do something like that. May I know what level you or she was? Excited. Izuku had the opposite effect of what he wanted. Well, in for an heiress. In for 1,000,000. Izuku activated intimidating aura and made his power play. I'm level 69. Play OST Golden Wind piano version. Last time I swear. Also POV change Wolbach POV. Oh, my various gods, he's not lying. Wolbach thought to herself as she finished processing what her new acquaintance just said. He's easily the highest level adventurer I've ever seen. Even among the other generals, his level alone would be insane. What the hell is he royalty? Crap, he's waiting for a response. The pressure was getting to me. I needed to calm down. Wow, that's certainly impressive. I've never even heard of someone with a number that high. If I may, what's your name? I needed to know. This man was too dangerous not to question. Luckily, he seemed to be cordial so far, so maybe he could be reasoned with. Where I'm from, it's common courtesy to give your name first when asking for others, even if you already know them. That was fair. He did look vaguely Japanese, so it made sense. But what did he mean by that last part? Have I already been found out? My name is Wolbach, sir. It's a pleasure to meet you, I said with a slight bow out of respect. He smiled at me and returned the gesture. I am Izuku Midoriya, likewise, though I didn't plan to meet another goddess anytime soon. The reincarnate said, Crap, he didn't know. I had to play this right. I can't say I've ever heard of you, sorry. But that makes it even more impressive that an adventurer of your level can exist without others knowing about you. Wolbach complimented while also apologizing for her ignorance. No worry, my level and fame are both rather recent. I might have killed Beldia a while ago, but taking down the destroyer and defeating Vanir was rather recent. That last one only happened a little over a day ago after all. I tried to hide it, but my eyes were bulging at the moment. He said that so casually, like he was talking about the weather. What is he? I was probably visibly sweating at this point, even in the bath. Shit, he noticed. There's no need to be so afraid, Wolbach-san. I am here on vacation after all. I don't intend to fight any demon generals today, so long as they don't cause any trouble. The hero admitted, much to my relief. Well, thank the gods. But that means Hans will have to stop what he's doing. I don't think he'll listen to me, even if I told him about Izadash. My train of thought was cut off as he said something else. To make this clearer, I won't fight you so long as you do nothing wrong. Truthfully, I've had nothing against most of the demon generals that I've met so far, only opposing them because they confronted me directly. Hey, Wolbach-san, would you like to learn a secret, something only my party and I know about? He holds no ill will towards us. And a secret, why would he tell me that? I have to warn you, though, you can't tell anyone else about it, or I'll be forced to kill you. Understood, I nodded fervently. Information was worth more than gold. Even if he decided to kill me after this, at the very least, I'll have something to send to Mao-sama after I die. Izuku POV. He's supposed to be on vacation, damn it. Here's hoping this works. It wouldn't be the first time that a hero intimidated a villain into submission, but it would certainly be my first time. If only I could thank Hound Dog Sensei for those extra lessons in psychological warfare. I took a breath and began what could possibly be this world's greatest bluff. Out of the 3 demon generals that I've fought so far, 2 of them have joined me willingly and are currently under my employment. It took a moment before that statement sunk in, but when it did, Telep, I rushed in with full cowling at 30% and covered her mouth before she could finish casting. The speed surprised her so much that she clamped down on my hand. Her bite strength wasn't nearly strong enough to pierce my skin, though, so now we were in a bit of an awkward position. Hey, Itsuko-kun. We're here. Here's hoping my luck got you into the mixed bath like I hoped. Ah, there you are. Red eyes met purple, and then there was silence. Play OST Golden Wind piano. I'm not sorry. Wow, Izuku-kun, you work fast. You already have 2 demons, a noble, and a goddess. Aren't we enough for you, already, Eris said. In a playful tone, there was no need to hide her identity this time. Her fellow goddess was here after all, and I didn't know you were in such rough play, though I doubt Wolbach-chan could hurt you even if she tried. Said Crimson Goddess was currently freaking out, trying to escape. However, she couldn't get her mouth off of my hand for some reason. I think her teeth are stuck. 5 minutes later, trying to help release a trapped goddess. Okay, I promise I won't run away. Just please don't do that again. It was so embarrassing. Wolbach complained while rubbing her jaw. We had to stretch it out a bit to remove her teeth from my hand. You wouldn't be able to even if you tried, I said while constantly casting my magic canceller spell. Against a city-sized Goliath with a magic barrier. It only lasted for a few seconds. But against a flesh and blood person, I could hold it like this for hours. Even if they were a goddess, the downside. And could you please choose somewhere else to grab? This is a bit too intimate, she said, motioning to my hand, which was held behind her neck. I had to maintain physical contact for it to work at its most efficient. If I grabbed your arm or hand, it would be even worse. Plus, we're in the bath right now. There weren't many other options. Sadly. Although Eris seemed to be enjoying the view. Is she enjoying seeing me with other women? I wasn't able to finish my contemplation as 4 more people joined the bath. The rest of my party sans Kazuma and Aqua had arrived. I wonder what those 2 are up to. Explosion sensée. What are you doing here? Megumin knew Wolbach well. This day was full of surprises. Wolbach seemed equally shocked. Megumin-san, well, this is a surprise. I never thought I'd see you again. And you're in a party with Izuku-sama. Honestly, I'm a bit Impressed. Her praise seemed to send Megumin over the moon. Whatever their relationship was, my little demon mage clearly had a lot of respect for the fallen goddess. Thank you, Explosion Sensei. With Izuku-kun's help and your explosion magic, I even got myself to level 60. Isn't that amazing? Wolbach started to break into a cold sweat again. I guess Megumin helped me out without even knowing. At least that worked. Izuku-kun, why are you holding Explosion Sensei like that? And why does she call you Izuku-sama? Don't tell me Kazuma Baka has been corrupting you, she exclaimed while pointing at me. Ah crap, I'm on my own for this one, aren't I? Eris wasn't going to help. She's enjoying this too much. Darkness was blushing and muttering to herself. A girl after my own heart. Was still in shock at seeing Wolbach here, and Yun was being Yun and copying Megumin's pose. Now how am I going to get out of this one alive? Find out next time on a world blessed by a heroic nerd. Doesn't really have the DBZ vibe, does it? Well, that was a pain and a half to write. Mostly because of the length, but also because I needed to decide what to fit into the chapter and what to cut out. Wolbach was also an interesting character, so I wanted to do her justice. Too bad that a hot spring surrounded by possible supremely high-level enemies aren't the best place for a character to shine. I will never apologize for making JoJo references, by the way. They are a sacred tradition, dating back to the founding of the First Empire. Here are the skills that Izuku has learned and how they work. Aspect of heroism. The user becomes the embodiment of their concept for a short period of time. Actions related to upholding said concept will be vastly more effective. Physical, magical, and mental stats shall be increased exponentially when in this form. Mana cost, none. Drawbacks, only lasts for 10 minutes. After usage, the user will be exhausted and unable to continue fighting, barring supernatural levels of stamina. Furthermore, actions that go against the ideals of heroism shall be nearly impossible to commit when in this form. Blessings of Strength grants a chosen target a 100% increase in strength for the next 5 minutes. Mana cost, minimal. Drawback, target will have sore muscles after use. Blessing of Agility grants a chosen target a 100% increase in agility for the next 5 minutes. Mana cost, minimal. Drawback, target feels exhausted and tender after use. Blessing of Constitution grants a chosen target a 100% increase in endurance for the next 5 minutes. Mana cost, minimal. Drawback, target will be more vulnerable to attacks after use. Blessing of Luck grants a chosen target a 100% increase boost to their luck for the next 5 minutes. Mana cost, minimal. Drawback, target's luck will reverse after use, becoming bad luck instead. Cleanse Magic. The user can cleanse any magical effect through physical contact, including magical curses, debuffs, and buffs. Mana cost varies depending on the magic being cleansed. Drawback, physical contact required. Cleanse Toxins. The user can cleanse foreign materials from any source that they touch. Mana cost, low. Drawback, physical contact required. Detect Lie. The user receives a mental ping whenever a lie is spoken. Mana cost, passive/none. Drawback, does not tell you what the lie was. Does not discern the whole truth. Only works in conversation. Written lies are still effective. Intimidating Aura. The user may project a frightening aura that intimidates all nearby creatures. Success chance is based on level. 50% base success chance plus 5% for every 5 levels above the opponent. Minus 5% for every 5 levels below your opponent. Two-handed Mastery. The user has full mastery over any two-handed weapons after only a few hours of practice. Ranged Weapon Mastery. User has full mastery over any ranged weapon after a few hours of practice. Drawback. Does not improve aim. It only improves your proficiency in the usage of ranged weapons and how to maintain them. Example. You aren't in any way, shape, or form hindered by a gun's recoil or even a cannon's knockback. However, aiming the thing is all up to you. Excellent when combined with Snipe. Create a protection. Target allies using this spell. Max 20 allies. All targeted allies receive permanent 50% increases to all stats and are highly resistant to negative status effects while the user is alive. Mana cost. 1% of total mana capacity per ally. Drawbacks. Status effect resistance works off luck. If the ally has a low luck stat, it's negligible protection. If the target has high luck, it basically becomes an immunity rather than a resistance. Well, that's enough from me. Sayonara. See you all next time. P.S. Please vote on the latest poll. It is due by the time that the Alicanteria arc is over. If there aren't at least 20 unique votes by that time, then I'll consider it a failure and pick one of the categories myself. Your princess is in another castle. If you guys haven't noticed, then good. Neither has Izuku. I'll just say that he forgot something very important and leave it at that. After dealing with Megumin's accusations of being corrupted, a few head pats and reassurances were all it took to fix that, funnily enough. Plus, Izuku managed to turn it around on her for knowingly walking into the mixed bathing section with him. Normally, this would apply to Izuku too, but in Eris' words, Izuku pulled a goddamn carriage filled with 8 people plus cargo for over a day. He deserves some slack. Now, the girls plus Izuku had to deal with was their new goddess friend. So, Wolbach-san, would you please explain to us what you and Hans were doing here? Izuku asked in the calmest voice that he could muster. After the chaos of their meeting started to ebb away, Izuku came to realize that he was in the bath with 6 extremely attractive women, 5 of which had shown feelings for him. I'm pretty sure this situation would have killed me back at Udade. How far have I come that this has become just another day, albeit a weird one? To be honest, I just wanted to enjoy the hot springs. Hans is the only one aiming to harm the people here. He plans to poison the water source for these springs as revenge for the constant bad rumors caused by the Axis cult. The Demon King is particularly angry at the followers of Aqua for slandering his name constantly. It made sense. The 2 goddesses were pretty adamantly against the Demon King. And if Aqua's followers were anything like the goddess herself before Izuku and Kazuma domesticated her, then the Demon King's anger was understandable. Aqua-chan, where's the water source located? We should plan ahead and take him out before he can manage to do anything. Izuku yelled out to the hot spring next to them. Aqua decided to enter the female section out of consideration for Wiz, or more accurately, because the other party members forced her to go there out of consideration for Wiz. It would also be best to contact the local Adventurers Guild for clearance. There was no need to go in half-cocked and deal with legal trouble because of it. It's behind the Axis Cathedral. I should be able to get us in there fairly easily. The only problem is that slime itself. Even with my purification, I don't think I can take it down in one go. It's fine, you won't have to. I would never put you guys in such a dangerous position anyway. Megumin wouldn't work either, since an explosion would send pieces of him scattered across the area, contaminating everything. Izuku says, trying to come up with a plan. Asterisk Q's sad explosion lowly face at not being able to blow something up. I wonder if cleanse toxins would just straight up make him disappear if used enough times. Nah, too risky. Izuku looked towards Wiz and asked if she knew any powerful ice magic or any other stasis-based magic. Yes, it's my specialty actually. Why do you ask? She looked confused before realization dawned. I know you wanted to stay neutral, Wiz-chan, but if Han succeeds with his plan, then all of Alkenrisha will suffer for it, including innocent citizens. Please consider helping us with this. Izuku asked the unofficial member of their party. Wiz's face grew serious as she considered Izuku's words before nodding in agreement. That's true. The terms for my neutrality were that non-combatants would not be harmed. Hans is breaking that promise, so I have no reason to not help out. I accept. Through the whole thing, Wolbach just kept growing paler and paler. The way you can gather powerful allies like that. It's terrifying. It almost reminds me of Mao Sama. That was surprising. So, she knew the Demon King personally. Izuku would ask about that later, but for now, he should make some ground rules. Since you weren't involved in the plan, I won't hurt you in any way. You're free to enjoy the hot springs as you wanted, just don't contact Hans while you're here. That includes contacting him through a third party. In fact, for the next few days, consider yourself under house arrest. I won't allow you to leave the city until Hans is dealt with. Izuku gave his ultimatum. That's all I don't mind, but how exactly are you going to keep me from just teleporting away the moment you let me go? Izuku looked her dead in the eye and raised a fist. This time it was covered 100% of OFA. He didn't do anything with it as to not break his arm, but she seemed to get the point. Because if I ever find you again, I won't give you the same chance twice. Her eyes went blank at this as she nodded slowly. Yes, of course. How foolish of me. Thank you for such a generous offer, Izuku-sama. Please put the fist away, Wolbach said in a completely monotone voice. She was already scared of Izuku when he busted out a 30% full cowling. The way he just tripled his power like that would obviously terrify her. Or anyone else who could sense the increase for that matter. Izuku-kun is scary when he wants to be, Yin said while cowering slightly. Megumin just looked torn. On one hand, what her boyfriend just pulled off was undoubtedly cool. On the other, he just threatened her old teacher with death. Wiz knew full well what Izuku was capable of, so she wasn't very surprised. Eris just had that mischievous grin on her face throughout the whole encounter. And Darkness. Well, Darkness looked like she was one step away from having an orgasm. And I think it's about time I got out of the bath. Izuku thought. This couldn't be healthy for him. I'll be getting out now. You girls enjoy the hot springs. I need to take a nap to rest after pulling that carriage all day yesterday. Izuku's stamina wasn't what it used to be. That was the problem with stopping intense training in exchange for fighting strong opponents. The body gets used to short bursts of energy rather than long, drawn-out exercise. Izuku made his way into the lounge provided for customers and took a nap on one of the small beds provided. He got a good half an hour of sleep before he was jolted awake by a startling realization. Izuku immediately jumped up out of his bed and started to get dressed in a panic. The others who had finished with their baths were surprised by their leader's sudden energy and asked him why he was so panicked. We're screwed, done for, dead, game over, man, Izuku muttered, which just got them even more worried, especially Wolbach, who decided to follow her survival instincts and stayed with them. What could possibly scare a near level 70 adventurer? Izuku-kun, what's wrong? Did you forget to hide all your dirty mags before leaving the mansion, or something? A clearly drunk Aqua asked as she stared at the green paladin in confusion, who was too busy preparing himself for a suicide mission to answer her. We forgot. His muttering got louder as his panic grew. Forgot what? Extra mana potions, your armor, Komasuk. I have her right here. Megumin tried, but failed to find the problem. Yin was equally confused as she racked her brain over what they could have possibly forgotten. Wolbach was just staring at the black cat in amazement, not even blinking as the animal stared back. Izuku would have run straight out the door and made a beeline to Axel, but he was stopped by a smack to the back of the head. Courtesy of Darkness, who was getting really worried. It didn't do any actual damage, but it managed to knock him out of his panic state. Thank you, Darkness-chan. I needed that. Izuku thanked her as he tried to calm himself down. What is it that we forgot that's gotten you so worked up? Izuku-kun, Darkness asked, making Izuku's panic return slightly as he was reminded of its source. We forgot Iris-chan. Silence. For multiple reasons. Aqua just passed out from alcohol poisoning. They ignored her. Megumin, Wiz, and Yin looked ready to keel over. Eris looked slightly worried but managed to shrug it off. Darkness froze as she realized the severity of their mistake. Kazuma nearly had a heart attack. Actually, never mind, he straight up had a heart attack and was currently foaming at the mouth. And Wolbach was still staring at the cat. Thankfully, before Izuku could panic any further, the logical part of his brain kicked in. Wiz-chan, Yin-chan, save me. I need you two to teleport me to and from Axel. Please, we don't have much time. They stopped in their tracks and then grabbed Izuku's shoulders while Wiz yelled teleport. Minutes later, Alkin Risha in. And that's how we managed to add the crown Princess Iris into our party. A freshly sobered-up Aqua finished her overly dramatized tale of how royally screwed they were for forgetting Iris. Literally, you have to be the strangest adventuring party I've ever witnessed. Wolbach answered back with a perfect deadpan look. Two goddesses made mortal, one who came here willingly while the other was forced. Two reincarnates, one with no real natural talent other than luck, while the other arrived with enough power to rival a demon general without his gifts. She was still processing that one, to be honest. Two crimson demon archmages, one of which happens to be trained by me personally. The daughter of a duke turned crusader. And to top off this already broken mess of a team, you've enlisted the help of two demon generals and a member of royalty within your first year of adventuring. Wolbach needed a drink. The stronger the better. How did she get roped into this mess? All she wanted was a nice vacation at the hot springs, damn it. Well, now that we've answered your question, it's only fair that you do the same for us. Why have you been staring at Komasuk for the last half hour? It was getting rather awkward, and even the cat started inching away from the redhead after a while. Oh, she's my other half. Seeing the confused looks from her new acquaintances, she decided to elaborate. When I was sealed away by the Axis cult long ago, they split me into two halves. I was originally the goddess of sloth and violence, but my current body embodies sloth alone. The cat that you see, there was my other half, which embodied violence. Megumin was apparently experiencing some Vietnam flashbacks as she let go of the animal, freeing it and letting it wander over to Wolbach. Upon making contact, the cat disappeared, and the goddess known as Wolbach was made whole again. Sort of. Huh. I expected more. I guess blasting the poor thing with explosion magic took out most of its violent tendencies. I don't feel much different now, just a little more agitated at being captured by Izuku-sama so easily. The two sides of her being were no longer equal. Sloth was her new dominant personality trait. She was thrown out of her musings by a flash of light, out of which came the three missing party members and a sufficiently pissed-off Iris. Said princess was currently pinching Izuku's cheeks as he tried his best to apologize in Japanese. I am sorry. Please stop doing that, Iris-sama. I left in a hurry, and I forgot about you. I'm sorry. The royal loli wasn't having any of that, though. I could understand forgetting. But if you had a spell like teleport, then why did you wait so long to come back for me? Izuku stopped thrashing and answered honestly. I actually have a good explanation for that. Please let me go, and we can explain it properly. Iris, being the understanding princess that she was, decided to listen to his excuse. Thank you for being reasonable, Iris-sama. Asterisk cough. To begin, I guess I should rip off the bandage right away. Izuku pointed at Wolbach. That is Wolbach-san, the goddess that your father mentioned a few days ago. She is a demon general, and another one is in this city, planning to pollute the local hot springs water source. Iris' reaction was understandably filled with disbelief. So let me get this straight. You decide to go on vacation after defeating another demon general, which I learned about from a waitress of all people, I might add. Iris added with annoyance at being left out of her new party's cool adventures. During this vacation, you met not one, but two more demon generals, one of which you managed to intimidate into neutrality. She said, pointing at Wolbach, who just sat there staring sheepishly. With a deep sigh, Iris facepalmed and muttered, That adventurer's card is a complete lie. You have the worst luck that I've ever seen in my life. Izuku rubbed his head sheepishly at that. You misunderstand what luck is. Eris spoke up. The rest of the party looked at her as she explained her domain in greater detail. Luck is the general ability to fight against fate or destiny. Whether it turns out positive or negative determines whether it's good or bad luck. They are subjective terms. Izuku-kun here was born powerless and quite weak in body as well. In other words, he was fated for mediocrity at best. That certainly surprised those that didn't know his past. However, he trained his mind to be strong, and through a stroke of luck, he managed to beat out fate by obtaining a new source of power. One for all, that really was a stroke of excellent luck, regardless of what All Might said. Izuku earned the power, but it was a 1 in a million chance encounter in the first place. That is the definition of luck. It can be good or bad, or even neutral, but its effects are always extraordinary for those with a lot of it. A blessing and a curse, if you will. Essentially, anyone with high luck is blessed and cursed to never have a dull life. Izuku could certainly believe that, although it made going on vacation near impossible, as he recently discovered. Well, with such a handicap, I can forgive your misgivings, Izuku-kun. Now about this other demon general, do you have a plan against them? Iris asked, to which Izuku nodded an affirmative before going on to explain the details. Slimes are completely invulnerable to physical attacks. Fire may work, but it would cause too much collateral damage. Wind attacks will just spread the body around and make the situation worse. Earth will get dissolved slowly. As far as I can tell, our only option is Wiz-chan's ice. She nods at that, already knowing her role for the future battle. She was a veteran adventurer after all. We'll set up camp at the water source and hide. When Hans makes his move, Wiz-chan will do her best to completely encase him in ice. After he's been contained, Megumin-chan will cast explosion on the still solid body, preventing the slime from spreading out any further. And hopefully, with a more concentrated target, he will be completely disintegrated from it. If not, then we can fire it another 2 times to make sure of it. Izuku finished his explanation. You can cast explosion 3 times in a row. How? Even I can't do that. Wolbach shouted out in complete shock. Even a goddess couldn't supply the mana for consecutive, full-powered explosion spells. How would a petite teenage girl, no matter how skilled, have those kind of reserves? Megumin looked smug at that as she pulled out a few mana potions from her bag. Mana potions, created by our leader Izuku-kun. Just one of these is enough to top me off on mana. I can drink about 8 of these in a day, but even so, casting explosion so many times does a number on my body, so I'm limited to 3 explosions before I need a few hours of rest. She bragged on Izuku's behalf, showing off his invention. Is this your gift, Izuku-sama? It's quite powerful then. Wolbach complimented after examining the potions. Izuku shook his head as a negative. I received 2 gifts actually. The first was just a device that allowed me to keep up with the events of my world and access information from it. My second gift was transmutation. Seeing her confusion, Izuku elaborated. I can manipulate any substance's shape and density. I can also convert equal amounts of one material into another, or into pure energy. I create these magic potions by injecting my own mana into simple fresh water, transforming it into a magic-rich drink. He explained as realization dawned on Wolbach. Izuku-sama, just how much energy can you generate from any ordinary material, she asked, hoping that it wasn't too bad. Oh, the material converted doesn't change the energy created. A kilogram of dirt is worth just as much as a kilogram of manatite. As for the amount, Izuku grew thoughtful while doing some number crunching in his head. A kilogram of material would create enough energy to rival an explosion spell, he said nonchalantly, as Wolbach took several seconds to think about whether she should switch sides for her own sake. So yeah, that's basically the plan. A lot of these demon generals have been gimmicky at best. Basic trickery and some water magic killed Beldia, and Vanir just went down easily. Hans just needs to be trapped and destroyed in that order, albeit by high-level magic. Unknown to him, the rest of the inhabitants of the room all thought the same thing in unison. They weren't easy to kill. You're just too damn smart and strong. So I'm going to spend the rest of my vacation camping next to a humid hot spring source while waiting for an unbelievably powerful poison slime to arrive. Luck really is something else, huh? Yup, the hero had forgotten his princess in another castle, or mansion in this case. Poor guy's is being pulled in a dozen directions at once. All the wants is a vacation, damn it. Izuku's day off and a cameo. Behind Aqua's cathedral. 10 p.m. party status. Near dead. You know, Izuku-kun, your tactics are on point, but you need to work on your strategies. Came Aqua's somewhat justified complaints. In Izuku's defense, most people didn't think about the logistics of waiting for hours upon hours in a hot and humid place for a house-sized poison slime dressed as a man to show up. Asterisk, grumble, grumble. Kazuma's stomach growled in agreement. I can't believe I'm saying this. But Aqua-chan's right. The least we could have done is brought a deck of cards, or even some snacks. I'm about to die of boredom rather than from poison. Okay, screw it. Making a deck of cards with transmute shouldn't be too hard, right? Turns out he didn't have to. As soon as Izuku was about to go out to find some vegetation to turn into playing cards, a wild Hans appeared. Finally, after all these years, I'm finally going to avenge our Lord's reputation. And after the hell that those zealot bastards put me through, I'm going to enjoy this. Before the guy could take his first steps towards the water source, the party sprung their trap. Wiz-chan now, Izuku shouted while channeling his magic canceller towards Hans, just in case. Cursed Highness Ice Prison, she called out before hiding herself under a dome. A veritable tsunami of ice descended upon the distracted slime. Normally, this spell would only send a comparatively small pillar of ice, about the width and height of a man. Too risky, Izuku said, so Wiz went out of her way to overcharge the spell. Having been frozen without a chance to react, Hans was effectively beaten. But the prison wouldn't last forever, much less in a hot and humid place like this. No, Hans needed to be finished off here, and considering that he planned to kill off hundreds of innocent people, Izuku had no mercy left to give. Sacred Ignis Explosion. The combo attack of Megumin being charged by Aqua's holy energy through Kazuma's drained touch was quite devastating, and thankfully concentrated compared to her usual wanton blasts of destruction. Good thing I decided to build that stone dome for Wiz-chan to hide inside of. The residual holy light from that spell might have been enough to kill her outright, Izuku thought, savoring the explosion. Its holy radiance felt really nice. I guess we won't be needing those extra mana potions. Hot damn level advantage is no joke. Kazuma summed up everyone's thoughts on the matter quite well. The explosion had a comparatively small blast radius, but what it left behind. There was a huge crater, only a few meters wide, but several hundred meters deep. I can't even see the bottom. Note to self, never piss off Megumin, he thought, canceling several pranks he had for the Crimson Lowly. Iris came out of her hiding spot and assessed the damage. Yep, you guys killed him dead, all right. Maybe we should just send you guys to fight the Demon King right away. You seem to take down his generals way too easily. Please don't joke about that. This was supposed to be a vacation, damn it. You guys really did a number on him. There isn't even a poisonous vapor cloud left. You completely disintegrated his body until nothing remained. Megumin-chan, you've graduated, by the way. While the Explosion Lowly was celebrating her graduation from Powa University, yes, I just did that. No, I'm not sorry. Izuku sat there confused on why Wolbach was even there. I half expected you to be on the other side of the planet by now, or too terrified to leave your room. What brings you out here? The last time they saw her, she was shivering and in a cold sweat. Why would she willingly come close to them again? I've decided that if you really wanted to kill me, then nothing on this planet could really stop you. So instead of making you angry or losing whatever shred of dignity I'd left, I decided to help you. Oh, Kaito, wasn't she loyal to the Demon King? Let me explain. You must be confused. I've only really been around on this planet for the last 10 years or so. Before that, I was sealed away by the idiot zealots, she said, pointing at Aqua. Hey, came Aqua's angry response, which fell on deaf ears, and handed over to Megumin-chan's people as a tourist attraction. Ouch, that's got to be a blow to the pride. Ever since Megumin-chan woke me up, I haven't really felt the violent impulses that I had in the past. Since my other half was so heavily weakened, absorbing her hasn't brought them back either. I've effectively gotten rid of that aspect of my divinity. So she wasn't prone to violence like her title implied. Good. That made Izuku's decision easier. But first, he let her finish her story. The only real reason why I joined the Demon King's army was that he was courteous to me and his people worshipped me. Although thinking back on that, they mostly worshipped my violent side. And since I haven't really displayed that, they've started to distance themselves from me more and more. So I really have no reason to stay with them. Seems legit. Iris looked a bit torn on the issue, though. I don't know how I feel about letting a demon general off scot-free. On one hand, you would be a powerful ally to have. On the other hand, your crimes can't just be overlooked. She made a good point. What has Wolbach done in her general career anyway? To be fair, I haven't really done much. In the decade or so that I've been active, I've just held up the Demon King's barrier and done a few hit-and-run missions on the various strongholds across Belzerg to keep the army on their toes. I doubt I've actually killed anyone with those explosion spells. Castles are pretty durable, and most I just caused property damage and made some of the soldiers wet themselves. Okay, seriously, this was way too convenient. We're the majority of the Demon King's army, just incompetent or something. Now that I think about it, I haven't actually heard any news about the war. No battle reports, no casualties, not even any news on property damage caused by the supposedly invading army. I smell shenanigans. But now wasn't the time for conspiracy theories. They still had to go back to the cathedral and reassure the people there that the problem has been taken care of. Hopefully, they still had enough time to relax for a bit before returning to Axel. 30 minutes later, Team Green Hotel. Everyone had already gone to sleep by this point. After waiting so long for Hans to arrive, they were all dead tired. So much so that we decided to just get a communal room and be done with it. Now, all 10 of them were basically having a sleepover. Normally, Izuku would be embarrassed about sleeping next to 8 attractive girls, but after the mixed bathing incident, he's sort of been desensitized for today. Plus, Kazuma was there too, so it shouldn't get too awkward. Early morning next day, Izuku woke up feeling something soft on his back, and his face, and his AR, you get the point. This has only happened once before, and that nearly gave him a heart attack, so Izuku took a moment to brace himself for what's to come. Izuku took a deep breath and tried to sit up. Asterisk moan, his eyes snapped open and looked towards the direction of the cursed/blessed sound, and Izuku was immediately met by a cursed/blessed image. Darkness had fallen asleep on top of their newest party member. Said goddess also ended up hugging Eris in her sleep from last night's post-battle celebration. And to complete the image, Wizard tried to comfort her former, turned current ally last night, and ended up joining the collection of bodies. The only difference being that she forgot to tighten her robe from last night and had her full cleavage visible for everyone to see. Everyone being Izuku, since he was the only one awake. As for the moan, Izuku-sama, not yet. I just got here. Please wait until we're at your mansion. Izuku would normally say that the gods were messing with him, but considering that 3 of them are in the room at the moment, it might be the opposite. Is this what Eris-chan meant by people with high luck never having a dull life in that case? I want my stats reduced. These situations are going to get me killed one of these days. Izuku internally lamented his good/bad luck. In the end, Izuku decided to pull a Kazuma and just up as fast as possible, ignoring the follow-up moan that he got for darkness for his trouble. It was too early for this shit, and Izuku needed breakfast. Thankfully, there was a nice bakery right next to their hotel, so Izuku just walked over after getting dressed. There are very few things that can beat a nice warm bagel in the morning, except maybe a jelly-filled donut. Itsuku-kun, you can't just leave a girl behind like that after waking her up. And there went Izuku's sense of peace. Asterisk sigh. Sorry about waking you up, Darkness-chan. I was hungry and panicked after waking up too. That's so I left to get breakfast. Here, I'll spot the bill as an apology. Izuku handed her a raisin bagel covered in fresh strawberry jam. All is forgiven, Eris said on Darkness' behalf while taking the bagel for herself, eliciting another moan from the masochistic crusader, which was promptly ignored. Good job, Izuku-kun. It's only been 5 months since we came to this world, and you've already taken out more than half of the demon generals. And most of them are even working for you. Ha ha. Her laugh was serene and genuine. It felt good if Izuku was being honest. To be recognized for his hard work. If he tried doing this in his old world, he would have been scolded, or worse, imprisoned for acting on his own. Not to mention how far you've come in the other battlefield of life. Izuku didn't like where this was going. I already had an interest in you when you declared your wish to send me back to heaven. Not many would give up a nearly omnipotent wish on someone else. It was just the right thing to do. Wasn't it Eris gave Izuku a new lease on life? Why wouldn't he would try his best to help her? Then Darkness Sean came along, and within 10 seconds of meeting her, you helped her improve herself without even thinking about it. Did you know that was the first time she's ever hit her target? Izuku didn't know that actually. Come to think of it, whenever they get into fights, Darkness had been left out of them or was relegated to tanking damage that simply never came. Next is Megumin Chan and Yin Chan. You accepted Megumin Chan even though she was considered a liability by many others. Not to mention you helped her achieve her dream. Again, not even a day after meeting her. You also brought along Yin Chan just because you noticed that she was too shy to ask. Ever since meeting you, they've been the best of friends. Almost like sisters. It's wonderful. Izuku never thought of it like that. He wondered why they took an interest in him so quickly, but when Eris spelled it out like that, Izuku just felt stupid now. Then we met up with Aqua Senpai and Kazuma-kun. Honestly, I expected her to hate you at first. She's always been rather childish and uncontrollable. But again, you blew my expectations out of the water. You took up her debt and even taught her some humility. I couldn't believe it, and honestly, I think I fell for you all over again. Okay, that was a bit mean towards Aqua. Not inaccurate, but still. We met Wiz-chan not long after that. To be honest, I was surprised when I didn't try to kill her on sight. Most goddesses wouldn't even give it a second thought, undead being our natural enemy. But somehow, through some means, you've managed to superglue our little family together despite the odds. I can say with absolute certainty that no other person I've ever met could pull off being friends with gods and demon alike and survive. No wonder they acted so weirdly with each other when they first met. Izuku thought Eris was just being jealous again. And now you have a secretary type. Nanny, who was the secretary? A waitress. Luna. Okay, that one made sense. A little sister, princess type. Wait, Iris. Oh God, that's what the king was laughing about. And if I heard Wolbok-chan whisper right, another god is coming for you. On the deepest level of screwed, aren't Izuku's face turn ashen at the thought of what his mom would do to him if she found out. She's pass out immediately. He didn't have to think too hard to figure that one out. Oh, don't give me that look. It's not uncommon for heroes or nobles to have multiple lovers. And you're both. And a hero worthy of a legend in this world at that. It was bound to happen. Eris said nonchalantly, as if she saw it coming a mile away. To Izuku's surprised darkness, and even a friendly baker joined in too, nodding their heads in agreement. As if Izuku getting a harem of girls was a law of the universe or something. I just want to go home now. Maybe the world will start making sense when I sleep in my own bed again. Maybe he should take up drinking. Kazuma uses that to cope, and he seems to be holding it together. Asterisk sigh, first a harem, now underage drinking. The guys back home would freak out if they saw me now. Izuku muttered to himself. Darkness seems to have hurt him. Now that you've mentioned it, how old are you, Izuku-kun? She asked in curiosity. That's right, he never mentioned his age. Had he, oh well, better late than never. Ah, sorry about that. It just never came up. I'll be 16 next July 15th. Suddenly a choking noise was heard from behind them. Izuku turned around and saw Kazuma coughing up a storm. Why, you're younger than me. How the hell? You're taller than me, more muscular than me, and you even look more mature, he yelled out before shaking his head. And I thought I had the mischievous younger brother role filled. You're telling me that I was the idiotic older brother this whole time. Another scream of psychological pain was let out as he ran off into the sunrise. Well, that happened, and I'm repressing this whole day for the rest of my life, if you guys don't mind. Izuku could really use that drink right now. Maybe their hotel had some stashed in that surprisingly modern mini fridge that was in the living room. Ah, crap. I ended up leaving those two alone in that bakery. Oh well, they should be fine. Back at the hotel. Who would have guessed that they had sake here? Wolbok questioned before taking a sip from her cup. Izuku nodded and did the same before answering what was probably a rhetorical question. It makes sense. The gods have been sending people over here for nearly a century. right? And most of them are Japanese. I'm just surprised more of the culture hasn't bled over already. Though from what Iris mentioned, some of their gaming consoles had made their way here. I still prefer grape wine, but this isn't half bad either. If only Kazuma-kun would treat me to something like this more often. But I'm expecting too much from a hicky-neat virgin, I guess. Aqua complained before downing a whole bottle like a champ. She got a lot more talkative and honest with her feelings when she's drunk. Speaking of drunk, Izuku actually wasn't despite drinking for a few hours now, only getting a light buzz from it. It was honestly a little worrying, but then he remembered one inconvenient little side effect of cleanse toxin that wasn't explicitly mentioned. It cured all toxins before they entered the body passively, including alcohol. It still cost mana, but since he had so much of it and alcohol was only considered a poison in high concentrations, Izuku was in a permanent state of buzz with no real consequence. Lucky bastard was the unanimous reaction of his drinking partners, what he told them. But you know what, this was nice. Izuku finally felt relaxed after a good week of non-stop stress. Hey Aqua-chan, if Kazuma-kun and I killed the Demon King together, do we both get a wish, or just the one that lands the finishing blow somehow? The alcohol got him to think about previously pointless questions. Whoever participates in the battle gets the rewards. Reincarnates included, so you both get a wish, plus anyone else that joins the fight. Well, that was good to know. Then again, there wasn't any rule against wishing for more wishes. I wonder if the gods will figure that out eventually. Meanwhile, in heaven. I shit the kids right. Why didn't we add some rules to the wishes? The god of wisdom of all things cried out while throwing away his alcohol in disgust. He really needed to stop drinking when coming up with these plans. Ha ha, that's my boy. I knew he would figure it out in under a year. Jofreya, you owe me 5,000 rupees. The local god of entertainment held his hand up towards the mother goddess of the Norse. How did you know? She asked incredulously, not thinking that she would lose such a simple bet. Let this be a lesson to you. Never make a bet with me. Unless you have something stupid like an outer god on your side. Fucking acid waifu and their chaos gods. He finished in an annoyed tone, remembering a recent loss that one of his other selves suffered to a high school freshman of all things. I miss Eris-chan, Freya said in dismay as she mourned the loss of her former drinking buddy. Now, she somehow got herself involved in a harem situation of all things. How does that even happen? And in under a year. Fair warning, this will be the second to last chapter of this story. After the next one, I'll mark this one as complete. Afterwards, I'll pick the winner of the poll that I made a few days ago. I'll also make the results visible to everyone until the last chapter is out to see if it stimulates people to vote. Remember, this isn't the end of the story as a whole, just the first arc. I'll make a sequel eventually when I both catch up with the LN and come up with some ideas for the future so that the sequel isn't as haphazard and random as this one. Have a good day. A familiar face appears. Here it is, the finale of Arc 1. This is going to be a relatively small chapter since it's only going to consist of Izuku returning to Axel, some supporting character interaction, and one final surprise at the very end. Still, it's been a great run, honestly. When I started writing this, I had no idea that it would have such a large following, but here we are, nearly 350 favorites and over 400 followers in. I can only say thank you all, and I hope you enjoy this final chapter before a bit of a hiatus. P.S. I leave the poll open to view for a day, and my votes double. The hell? I guess people just don't like voting for things that they can't see the statistics for. Explains a lot when I think about it. It has been 3 days since Belzerg's Emerald Party killed Hans and recruited their newest party member. Izuku liked to believe that they've spent that time well, relaxing, playing together, and even drinking together. Even Megumin and Union got a shot at it, but they were both lightweights. A couple of shots of the stronger stuff, and they were out for the count. The city even gave them a huge banquet as thanks for saving their livelihood. It was a pretty simple event. If the followers of the Axis cult could do one thing above all else, it was party. It may have been simple, but it was glorious. Most of the party was completely drunk by the end of it, except for their iron-livered leader, of course. To Izuku's embarrassment, the girls managed to sleep with him every night since the Hans incident. He tried to avoid it, but they kept pinning him down each time, and he didn't have the heart to wake them up after they fall asleep. Even Wolbach joined in. The first time she woke up to sleeping in the pile, she was blushing like a madwoman and ran off to who knows where. However, since that first reaction, she's mellowed out quite a bit. Izuku was pretty sure that Eris had something to do with it. My goddess is going to be the death of me, he thought. All in all, Izuku would call his vacation a resounding success. I guess this is what some would call a business vacation, asterisk chuckle. Izuku still found it pretty funny how he basically solved more problems while he was on vacation than the other top-level adventurers did in their whole careers. And now here I am, pushing a carriage filled with 10 people and a good deal of cargo. Not that it was particularly difficult. If Izuku really wanted, he could have lifted the damn thing over his head and ran it down the countryside at speeds that would make a fighter jet jealous. But where was the fun in that? Iris and Wolbach got to enjoy the drive back from Alkenrisha, neither of which had really traveled like this before. Wolbach usually used teleport, while Iris almost never left the royal capital, so this was a nice change of pace for them. Hey, Izuku-kun, Iris piped up in a questioning tone. Izuku looked back to see her worried expression. What kind of training did you go through to find something like this normal, I mean? You're barely 2 years older than me, and you don't exactly come from a family of overpowered heroes. So how do you do it? Izuku raised an eyebrow at that. Was it really that weird? It's true that I came from a pretty normal family. In fact, I was born without any power whatsoever, even when 80% of the world's population had one. The reason why I trained so hard is because my mentor chose to believe in me, and I refused to let him down. Iris gave him another questioning look, so Izuku elaborated. His name was All Might. He was the greatest hero of my world, our symbol of peace, who single-handedly cut his country's crime rates down to a third of what they were. We ended up having a chance meeting, and after I impressed him, he chose to train me to be his successor. That's the short version anyways, Izuku said before having flashbacks to his 10 months of hell. It was grueling, to say the least. I was only 14 when I started training with him, and for 10 months, he had me working on a huge task all on my own. I was only allowed to become his successor after I finished the job. Pretty much, if Izuku hadn't done it in 10 months, he might have actually had to enroll at a year later, if at all. They cut extremely close back then. What was the workout? Did you have to destroy a huge boulder with a punch or something? Megumin asked a follow-up question. Izuku shook his head in denial. No, nothing like that. Remember, I was just a regular person back then. No special powers, no real athleticism to speak of. I was a stick figure in all but name. Izuku's mind flashed back to the picture All Might took of him at the start. The task was that I needed to clean up a beach that was full of trash. The stuff stretched from one side of the shore to another and was piled so high that it blocked out the sunrise. I had to do all of that in only 10 months. At first, I thought it was impossible, but somehow I managed it. Izuku had to have hauled off at least a kiloton of garbage by the end of that time period. Why clean a beach? Wouldn't it have been simpler and more effective to just work out extensively through the full 10 months? Kazuma was up this time, and he wasn't really wrong, but it wasn't just about training. I was training to be a hero. When most people think about heroes, they imagine a powerful person fighting criminals and saving people with flair and style. Not many people look at a man doing community service and call him a hero. That outlook was lost as the generations went on and the hero profession became more and more commercialized. All Might wanted to teach me that lesson early on, and I have to say, it certainly stuck. Izuku replied with a smile on his face. The nostalgic mood that the conversation brought caused him to zone out for the next few kilometers. Eventually, they reached the city walls before Izuku even realized it. To Izuku's surprise, there were a couple of actual guards on the watch when they got close. They were wary at first. Seeing a man push a large carriage at extreme speeds will do that. However, they calmed down when Izuku got close enough for them to recognize him. Izuku-sama, welcome back. The Green Paladin slowed down and addressed the two. They must be the new permanent guards for the city. Vonnier-san has been busy. Hello, we just come back from our vacation. How has it been around Axel? He and his party were responsible for this place, after all. It would be best if they kept up with any recent changes. We've made great strides for the better, Izuku-sama. In the week that you introduced your tax changes business has flourished. We owe our permanent employment to you, Izuku-sama. Thank you, they said in unison, which made Izuku a bit uncomfortable. Well, thank you for the praise, but it was actually Kazuma-kun's idea to have permanent city jobs instead of hiring adventurers haphazardly. You should be thanking him. When in doubt, throw your problem at your obnoxious older brother and run. Kazuma seemed to absorb the praise much better than Izuku. Maybe you should do this more often. The party then sped off to the mansion, first to unpack. Afterwards, the others walked towards the guild hall for some lunch, while Izuku returned the carriage that he rented. As he walked across the city, Izuku noticed how much more energy everyone had. Beforehand, the adults always had a tired look on their faces as they went on with their daily life. But now they have a noticeable pep in their step as they walked around, as if a huge weight had been lifted from their shoulders. For a demon that feeds off people's negative emotions, Vonnier-san has certainly done a good job managing the changes. After bringing the carriage back to the owners, Izuku made his way towards the guild hall, where he would have if Vonnier hadn't stopped him halfway there. Itsuku-kun, what luck! I hope you like the changes that I've made so far. Speak of the devil indeed. Hello, Vonnier-san. And yes, you've done a great job so far. I made the right decision by recruiting you. Izuku complimented. Vonnier smirked and gave Izuku a bow. Well, of course, it's not every day that you can have someone as powerful as I under your employ. Tell me, Izuku-kun, how was your vacation? Izuku's sweat dropped a bit and explained what happened. Vonnier laughed so hard that Izuku was afraid his current body was going to keel over soon. 2 in 1 day, that has to be a new record, haha. Well, I can't say you didn't handle it well. 1 dead and the other pacified. I'm sensing a pattern here. What was he insinuating with that one anyway? As a reward for making my day, I'll give you a bit of information you might find interesting. A blonde-haired, blue-eyed man was looking for you. He wore a red, white, blue, and gold outfit as well. He's currently waiting for you at the guild hall. Maybe you know him. Blue eyes and blonde hair, and that color scheme. Was Mitsurugi finally going to apologize for acting like an idiot a few months ago? Better late than never, I guess. Izuku looked back up to speak to Vonnier, but he had already disappeared. He's way too stealthy for a man with his level of flamboyance. As Izuku continued to walk towards the guild hall, he ran into Senna, of all people, as well. Hello, Izuku-kun. It's a pleasure to see you again. Did you enjoy your vacation? The secretary type asked her latest benefactor. Izuku smiled towards her and answered a bit sheepishly. Yes, it was a bit bumpy at the beginning, but it was nice overall. Did something happen to inconvenience you? Oh, that was putting it very lightly. Izuku recounted the story of his first 2 days away from town, and to say that Senna turned pale was an understatement. And it was definitely for the right reasons. You left Iris-sama behind. How are you still alive? She took Izuku defeating 2 more generals and recruiting one of them in stride. It's become par for the course at this point. Guess when you do the impossible on a weekly basis, it stops being special. Senna wished Izuku luck for the future since she had to leave for work soon. Apparently, she got a steady job as Vonnier's assistant manager. Oh, the irony. Now that I think about it, with Wolbach-chan recruited, that means that there are only 3 demon generals left. Aqua should be able to take down the barrier now. Maybe we should make another visit to the king before anything else. It would be a disaster if we went in half-cocked. Before Izuku knew it, he had arrived at the guild hall and noticed Mitsurugi standing outside of it with his arms crossed and his eyes closed. He walked up to the knight in blue and tapped him on his shoulder. Excuse me, Mitsurugi-san. Were you looking for me? He looked confused at that and shook his head. No, I wasn't. Who told you that? He asked, a little annoyed. Izuku shrugged before explaining himself. Vonnier-san said that a blonde-haired, blue-eyed man with a red, white, blue, and gold color scheme wanted to see me. You're the only one I know that fits that description. His eyes opened up in realization before pointing back at the guild hall with his thumb. The guy you're looking for is in there. He just showed up a few days back saying that he wanted to see you. The waitresses told him that you were out on vacation, so he just accepted that and stuck around ever since. He was kind of creepy if you ask me, especially with those black eyes that he has. His name was also strange. I think he might be like us. Izuku's whole body froze at the mention of black eyes. It couldn't be. Could it before the thought, even fully manifested in his mind? Izuku had already started running towards the entrance and pushed open the door as fast as he could. There was a familiar face waiting for him, sitting in one of the tables surrounded by his party and looking rather flustered, until he noticed Izuku and stopped. Izuku didn't know how long they stared at each other. It could have been seconds. It could have been whole minutes. But the man in front of him broke the silence first, just like he always did. With a small smirk that he only really let Izuku see, he spoke up. "It's good to see you again, young Midoriya. I see you've made a lot of good friends since he died. Only All Might could say that last part with a straight face and not make it sound weird. Or that's what Izuku would have thought if his world hadn't gone black at that moment. After spending nearly a year in this new world, Izuku had come to terms with the fact that he might never see his old friends again. But seeing his mentor right there, in the flesh, it was too much. Izuku passed out before he could even say a word. Woo boy, I've wanted to write that for a long time now. To any of you that were genuinely surprised by seeing this, it's something that I've been cooking up alongside some of my older and more vocal fans for a while now. Could you guys think of a better cliffhanger to end an arc on? I sure couldn't. Hope you all enjoyed this, and I'll see you all soon on my Reading FIC next chapter on that I'll be announcing the winner of the latest poll, along with when to expect the first chapter to come out. See you guys there, sayonara.